Dude, the way that they pushed. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead. I never know when we're live, and people complain that like I started with this is Rocket Lab Week, and it was always cut in half. So I usually wait. I think now we're on. It shows 200 people on the stream. I never know if that number is accurate, but so hello everyone. This is Super Bowl day for us Rocket Lab investors. Super exciting. This is the Rocket Lab Q2 earnings live investor commentary and call. We started a little bit earlier because usually Rocket Labs drop some gems before earnings, usually some videos and releases. So we're here. So the minute anything is out, please let us know in the comments. We're also madly refreshing over here, and we will just chit chat until that times. So how are you guys feeling about earnings?
Excited. It's always a fun time.
I'm really excited to see what the Q3 rev guide's going to be. I don't know. I just have it in my gut that we're going to hit $1 billion this year for revenue, and if we are, it's got to keep going up. So I'm thinking, I'm like 275, 300 is what I'm. Something in me is telling me it's going to be up around that range, but I don't know.
So you're saying we're going to run to 270 this year?
I think the Q3 guide for revenue will be 275 to 300 million. That's what
okay.
Right now. Just vibes. I mean, a little bit of like, I think the Gauss, maybe we'll start to see sales there, and then Minark sales will be in there for the full quarter. So, but, yeah.
Amen.
Real quick, just to get out of the way, I don't know, we talked about it side real quick, but just so we don't have to bring it up again. I first of all really appreciate the community that. I know that GoFundMe was controversial, but it really helped. It allowed me to not pull the last of my investment out, and gives me time to make some other plans here in the next few months. So I just want to show some appreciation to anybody that has donated or reached out with support on the community. I'm doing much better emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever, now than I was a few weeks ago. So I really appreciate the love and support from everybody, but I don't want to go into all the details or get into a lot of it because it's still hurts a little bit, but I just wanted to express that and then, not leave it hanging there. So that was it.
No problems, man. We appreciate you being here and providing value for the community, and glad to see you doing well.
Thanks. Really, you guys, I felt the love. I'm not me getting emotional about it. Let's go on. All right, rock on.
So Jacob, I wanted to kind of not spread fear or whatever, nothing like that. So it might sound like I'm trying to like jinx earnings or whatnot. I'm not. Jacob and I were talking last night in like one of the Discord chats. One of the things that I'm really curious about this quarter is that revenue guide. What I mean by that is just to kind of give the high level Q2 revenue guide: 225 to 240 million, 6 launches within the quarter. I did some kind of probably I want to say like estimations, but it's not estimations. It should be pretty accurate, but we're probably looking at like 50 million between the set of launches that we did see. And I'm quite convinced that last IQPS one was intended to go off within the quarter. So I'm curious to see not only that, to see if space systems did kind of like buffer that what would be a lag for launch, and to take that a step further as well, Rocket Lab started doing that whole recognizing haste revenue at, over time rather than at point in time. And that started in like kind of heavy in Q2 2025. So I'm really curious to see what happens with that, if launch revenue does end up falling a little bit short, or if we do have to pull ahead some of that space systems revenue. Just to kind of echo what you're saying in terms of like the Q3 guide, I'm curious to see what Q2 ends up looking like in all things considering. But Jacob, you did bring up a good point where it's like, yeah, some of the haste revenue wouldn't be within this quarter, but then we have like 25 new haste launches in recent history. So maybe those milestones are going to be hit. So maybe we'll see actually like a massive quarter for launch revenue, just given that like that early recognition for such a large contract, the 20 haste.
Okay. Guys,
just to give credit real quick, it was Space Fortune, by the way, that said that, not me, for the haste partial
The
launch.
presentation
Take
is up.
credit. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The presentation is up.
Can somebody share it? I don't. Oh yeah, I have it. Okay, let me.
I click on it. It said URL not found. It's probably crashing.
Oh, same here.
There it is.
There we
There it
go.
is.
All right. So Q2 2026 investor update. Record quarter plus post quarter wins. 234 million record revenue.
Yep.
Q2 revenue up 62%, 89.6 million year over year versus Q2 2025 with 16.8% growth over Q1 2026. 581 million in space systems contracts across Q2 and post quarter. 437 million plus dollars plus in launch contracts across Q2 and post quarter. 2.36 billion record Q2 backlog plus more than 800 million of new bookings post quarter. Wow, that's crazy. Transformational acquisitions, unlocking new TAMs and capabilities. Iridium acquisition announced, our boldest expansion yet that is expected to unlock our future revenue in space applications. Moneric and Motive acquisitions closed, vertically integrating robotics and laser comms into our capabilities and expanding our reach into new programs. Oi, I have a baby who woke up. Can somebody else take over reading the slides?
Sure. Do you know link to my screen?
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Ooh,
I think
there's a
I'm
line.
too loud when I'm reading it. So here we go.
this is my screen now. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we finished this one, yeah. On to the next. 2.36 billion plus more than 800 million of new bookings post quarter. That's cool. So space applications. Rocket Lab, believe it or not, are acquiring Iridium. This combines Rocket Lab's launch capability and satellite manufacturing with Iridium's global satellite communications network and rare spectrum. Rocket Lab becomes a fully integrated, self-launching Tier 1 space provider, delivering critical communications capability to millions of users worldwide. Just making sure it's larger, good. Rocket Lab becomes an integrated space powerhouse. So from launch complete, spacecraft complete, and space applications, so global voice, data, and PNT services. That's new. Our future in space applications will be unlocked and accelerated. This is our entrance into recurring applications revenue from space, but it's not just the finish line. Rather than simply continuing Iridium's network, we'll build upon it to scale into untapped markets and pioneer new space-based services. So it mentions PNT, IoT, defense and government, aviation and marine, which is, I think that's one of the like the biggest fine print from this Iridium acquisition is the aviation related stuff. We can touch on that in a little bit. Direct to device is also mentioned as well, and mission services. The ultimate combination for growth, expanding capabilities, build upon Iridium's existing network to scale into untapped markets, pioneer new space-based services, and deliver enhanced services across IoT, D2D, PNT, defense and national security, and aviation and marine safety. Streamlining deployment of a new infrastructure, eliminate third-party costs, and fast-track deployment of new on-orbit infrastructure to deliver new advanced capabilities. More efficient use of spectrum, leverage new technology and capabilities to put Iridium's spectrum to effective use, extracting substantially greater capacity and throughput from the same finite spectrum allocation. Space systems. $379 million contract to build and launch satellites for Space Force SB AMTI program, space-based airborne moving target indicator, a large Space Force constellation to detect, track, and monitor airborne threats from space, includes multiple satellite spacecraft, plus options for more, launched on Neutron. Compelling recognition of Rocket Lab's strategic vertical integration model.
That's going to be, I think that's going to be a big program later on. I think this is like the first step of what the SDA has turned into. So I don't know. I don't think that's done. I mean, nothing like maybe not in the next year, but I think later that's going to end up being another source of contracting revenue.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, guys, why isn't this called a constellation contract? Because they're like basically sending up satellites and operating them, and to me it walks and talks like a constellation. I don't know why they didn't name
Probably
it
because
that.
it's the U.S. government that has it. I mean, and SpaceX is doing the larger portion of it. We're basically doing what will turn into Tranche 2 or the second layer, something like that.
So we are part of an existing set. Okay.
Yeah, we're the second there. SpaceX got the lion's share of the largest portion to put it up quickly, and then we're the number 2 for the next next iteration. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good though. I mean, that's up against Lockheed and all the other big names. So we beat them all out for a good contract. It's good to me.
Mm-hmm. New market unlocked. Selected to build GEO satellites for Space Force. Selected to build multiple geostationary satellites to deliver space domain awareness for Space Systems Command across multiple contracts totaling more than $160 million. M&A synergy realized with integration of Heimdall payload from the Geost acquisition. Rocket Lab's first entrance into satellite production for geostationary orbit, unlocking a new market. Either I've been under a rock or this is completely new. Is this new?
This was the small contract Jacob and I were talking about.
The what's
the
contract?
the PTSG contract that we got. Remember, there was a Viasat that had gotten 2 when we were doing the bus probably for 1, and this was our first GEO contract we got. It's PTSG is the program.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so this is the bus, right?
Yeah. Well, we're also got our own 2 satellites we're building. We're most likely building the buses for Viasat as well.
Cool.
So
Okay.
There should be 4 sats total that we're doing. 2 of them fully in and 2 the buses.
Cool. I'm glad you're here, Jacob.
Got you.
Victus Hayes record-breaking responsive space mission. Launch record 16 hours 42 minutes. Launched on Electron was with just 16 hours 42 minutes notice. Fastest response ever for a TAC RS mission. Rapid spacecraft ops 34 hours early. Spacecraft commissioning complete in just 38 hours. 34 hours faster than Space Force's set target. That's crazy. On orbit pursuit, 25 hours early. Tracked and photographed a target adversary satellite in under 59 hours, well before the 84-hour cutoff. Rocket Lab Germany, delivering European sovereign space capabilities. Satellite manufacturing. Rocket Lab Germany, I like the sound of that. Rocket Lab Germany is pursuing opportunities that could lead to the establishment of satellite bus, payload, and spacecraft components manufacturing in Germany. Potential for establishment of regional hub for constellation-class manufacturing of components, as well as spacecraft assembly, integration, and test. Would enable Rocket Lab to serve commercial, civil, and defense space programs across Europe as a domestic provider. Assured access to space addresses Europe's launch deficit by bringing a domestic mission-tested launch partner to the region to eliminate space access bottlenecks. Provides Europe with resilient and responsive launch capabilities tailored to the region's unique needs. Strategic
LC5.
Say again?
LC5 coming.
Really? Yeah. Strategic autonomy and space sovereignty. Europe faces glaring gaps across both launch and spacecraft manufacturing. Rocket Lab Germany addresses these directly, providing the region with new domestic strength to secure, defend, and discover in a new, rapidly evolving new space era. Cool. Electron and HASTE. Record demand and backlog. Q2 2026 plus post-quarter launch contracts across Electron, HASTE, and Neutron. $437 million plus record new launch contracts, 26 new launches booked, and 90 plus launches in backlog, highest in company history. So that 90 plus, that's like as of today's date, right? That's my interpretation.
Yeah, it must be.
Okay.
No, well,
just because it does say plus post-quarter launch contracts.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to keep an eye out for that. Because that's crazy. Last quarter was 28, wasn't it, for Electron bookings?
31, wasn't it? Or something like that?
No, yeah, it was. Yeah, right. It was 28, and then we had that additional 3. Yeah.
There's a little fine print at the bottom. Includes 6 optional launches under the U.S. Space Force suborbital launch contract.
Okay.
That's the Victus Hayes ones from Alaska. It was 12, but then there's an option for 6 more.
Right. Okay.
Also, just real quick on the last slide, the Germany Mynaric thing. If you guys remember, they were talking about having PCB printer assembly lines stations up there extra at Mynaric that was like underutilized. So when they're talking about doing more component manufacturing there, that just made me bring it up. That Mynaric has facilities there for some of it, like that seem to be underutilized, or they could optimize for some of that stuff. But that was it.
In the chat, I say A and Jane mentioning that LC4 will have 2 pads. I'm curious. Tell us more. Do we know?
There's 2 more announcements that came out, but if you scroll down, it will be in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Peeking ahead, are we?
Yep.
I'm doing lots of peeking.
I'm doing all the peeking too.
Yeah.
New multi-launch contract signed. So it looks like 3 with NASA, 3 with IQPS, and 2 is the Defense Prime.
Money says that's Raytheon for our SBI contract, but I'm not certain, but I bet you.
Is that like 2 additional to the one that was signed, or is that?
Well, we didn't actually sign any with Raytheon. We signed 3 for Anduril, but Raytheon was just SBI partnership, but no official nothing announced for actual launch contracts. I'm just guessing that those 2 might be for it, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's one of those like off record things, but I'm like 90% sure that they're. Well, we'll talk offline. Largest launch contract yet, $266 million from U.S. Space Force. Landmark agreement with Space Force's Space Systems Command solidifies Rocket Lab as the flight test leader for missile defense. Roughly 18 suborbital launches. First launch within 6 months. 2 new launch pads and a new location, Launch Complex 4, coming to Kodiak, Alaska. Awesome.
Scroll to the next page. This is exciting.
Introducing Ghost, global hypersonic. Oh shit. Let's go. Global hypersonic and orbital spaceport technology. Launch anytime, anywhere.
Including Walmart.
Not even through this yet. We're getting a tweet from Kemp within the hour. I'm calling it now. Launch anywhere, anytime. Rockets, launch infrastructure, ground support, and range control systems delivered in shipping containers, ready to launch on rapid timelines.
Wow.
Let's go.
Back-to-back missions. Ghost supports Electron and Haste, bringing dual launch options to responsive launch, national security, and missile defense. Sovereign launch export. This sounds like Germany, maybe Australia too.
Andoya? Yeah, yeah.
Bringing a one-stop shop for full end-to-end test regimes and orbital missions to America's partners and allies.
What about Japan? We have so many launches from.
I'm surprised we don't have something from Japan yet. Just between IQPS.
They might be trying to protect their domestic small launch industry because they do have more. I mean,
good point.
They are a national. They are a space power already, but you're just.
Peter said as long as you have enough sovereign payloads, he would consider it.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the prior slide, that initial launch pad graphic that we saw when they first announced it, I thought initially, is this like AI generated? But this looks like it's a thing, right? Like it's a real launch pad already?
Oh, no. It's not up there yet.
So
no.
This is AI. This is very good AI.
Yeah, that one's AI, yeah.
AI,
they haven't built it yet. No.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't seen it. When we look through all the Alaska, like their the contracts for the spaceport there, because it's all public stuff. There was some stuff in there about doing the plumbing and stuff like that for the pad that they should be going to.
Yeah.
But there's nothing indicating that they already would have built it yet. But this sounds like it's going to be that's why the launch time's so fast. So they just have to roll them up there and lay them out. I guess I don't know. I'm not sure I guess we'll get more details on the call.
Oh, this is an excellent mock-up, though. It looks very detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, we're going to have the 2 prettiest launch sites in the world now.
Mm-hmm.
I always like the Kodiak site.
Mm-hmm. So flight hardware is coming together. Archimedes engines, we have 400 plus hot fires completed. For the thrust module, we have final fluids and avionics integration. Stage 1 assembly is underway. Stage 2, final integration. And Hungry Hippo fairing is in pre-flight testing. Jacob, you probably know this better than anyone here. Where are we at with the Neutron being stacked?
Oh, I mean, this is the first I'm seeing some of this too. So maybe let's go through the rest of it and then we can talk about it because new information.
Okay. Stage 1 is in final assembly. Stage 1, production making progress following transition from hand layup to automated fiber placement, with barrel section and propellant tank domes moving into assembly and fit out. Production of the Stage 1 tank currently aligns with target delivery of Neutron to the launch pad in Q4 2026. Okay.
That wording is
No.
Yeah,
no,
we're receiving parts
me
in
gusto,
Q4.
no me gusto, no me gusto. Yeah.
Interstage completed qualification load tests to validate design and performance, now moving into flight assembly for first launch.
So that broken interstage that they didn't get through their final qual point that cracked their own lines. Not the Stage 1 tank, but where they're doing the hydro test, but the other one that cracked.
Mhm.
This is what they're saying. It's done. It's passed and now it's moved. I mean, you can see it from looking at it that it's all stacked with stuff.
Nice.
Sorry. So
Is it through qualifications?
Yes. I mean, they wouldn't have put all that stuff on it if they hadn't. On the next page, you can see the picture of it. That's the interstage right there, isn't it?
Boom.
Yeah, they wouldn't have put all that stuff on it if it wasn't. Last Stage 2. Oh crap! Never mind.
No,
Keep going.
stage, yeah.
Because isn't it the one that cracked where it says like production supports it to be delivered to the pad? Like, isn't that what they mean, that it's not fully produced yet? But
Well, okay. It did say completed qualification load tests and validated design and performance.
And that's
now moving into flight assembly for first launch. So it's qualified.
The interstage though, the Stage 1, the one that we saw crack, that one looks
There was
like
two people.
What's
There
that?
was two things that cracked. The interstage did, and also the Stage 1 tanks. So this is the second thing that came out that had cracked.
Yeah. Target delivery to the launch pad.
Mm-hmm. For Stage 2, we have integration, then shipping to LC3. So for Stage 2, completing fluids and avionics integration and checkouts. Stage 2 being prepared to ship directly to Launch Complex 3 for final test campaign before first launch. Thrust module integration, then shipping to LC3. Final avionics and fluid integration, as well as engine fit checks completed ahead of testing on the launch pad. Engine testing heading into the final stretch. 400 plus hot fire tests completed across Stage 1 and Stage 2 engines, including beyond the power and mission duty cycle required. Control and durability validated across flight hardware for all major engine components. Full engines set for Neutron's first launch are in production. Once qualification program is completed, these will enter the acceptance test program before being shipped to LC3 for integration. So it sounds like there's a lot that's still needing to be sent to LC3.
Yeah.
Hungry Hippo in pre-flight testing. So this is at LC3, right? Is that where we're seeing that, or is that the
I mean, yeah, outside of the facility, but yeah, it's not at the pad; it's at the
right.
No, it's where we park the cars.
Yeah. Hungry Hippo reusable fairing. Final checkouts underway before Hungry Hippo is ready for flight and attached to the rest of the first stage. New commercial and defense launches signed. Constellation for Kepler Communications. The first time Kepler has booked a dedicated mission on a commercial launch vehicle, launching no earlier than 2028. Okay, cool. Dedicated launch with multiple Rocket Lab satellites for Space Force's SB AMTI program to detect airborne threats from space.
That was part of the other bigger $400 million contract.
Mhm.
I can't. It says. Does it say multiple? Multiple satellites. I bet it's only one. I bet you it's only one launch though, because they could slot like 15 in there according to those graphics that we've seen of them. But
I think there was even a quote. I want to say it was like 20 to 25. I can't remember who it was from, but I know that number because if you manually count, I think it's 16 in the image. But it was in one interview, somebody kind of threw up the number. Well, it was like it wasn't like explicit, but it was one of those things. They're just kind of like 20 to 25 satellites in a Neutron, and so it was one of those things. Kind of reading between the lines. I'm pretty sure they meant flatellite, but wasn't. Yeah. So some room for error there. High demand for early Neutron launch slots. So commercial, 1 launch for Kepler Communications and 7 confidential customer launches.
Rocket Lab.
Wow.
So that's the other. Oh, it's a start date? I don't know. That must be the first 2 that we ever got that were confidential, and the 5 from last quarter. So that's their 7 confidentials. So this is good. This is another new one. That means that's 8 Neutron in the backlog.
Mhm.
Plus plus the point-to-point cargo study thing that it wasn't its own launch.
Mhm. I wonder if that just gets baked into one of these 8, I guess.
That's what I'm expecting. I don't think it's its own launch.
Do you think that happens with Venus too? You think Venus just gets kind of tacked onto one of these, or is that going to have to be its own?
I don't know, honestly. I have no idea where the trajectory needs to go if it's like a relight thing. I don't know. I was kind of hoping it would be on the first launch because it's been so long now. But
We'll see. So for defense, dedicated launch for Space Forces. So that just sounds like one dedicated launch for Space Forces SB AMTI program, national security space launch provider. I'm surprised we haven't seen any contracts from that yet, but I think that's coming.
We have to get a flight done first to be able to develop.
Oh, okay. Launching U.S. Air Force point-to-point delivery experiment. Iridium neutron capacity will be reserved for launching Iridium's next-gen constellation under a self-launching space applications business model once the acquisition is complete.
It sounds like more launch constraint overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it also sounds like that they're planning to do something with Iridium, because you guys remember that they said that the satellites of Iridium are quite new and they don't need to be replenished for quite some time in the future. So if they're saying that they're reserving Neutron, it can only be for a new thing, because the Iridium satellites are not old enough yet to.
Plus, just like looking at the customers that we do know already, like we're already booked till like pretty much 2030. I think it's fair to say at this point.
2029, 2030, depending on the NSL stuff. There's probably some room in there for that. I wasn't thinking we were going to launch new Iridium, like a new constellation, until probably 2030 anyway.
Yeah.
There's no point in, it's generating cash now, unless there's like a step change in what you could put up there to it would have to be able to justify growing it really fast to be able to, to pull in the CapEx turnover or whatever you want to call it.
Do you guys want to go into the financials, or you want to watch the cool ghost video?
Oh, I didn't know there's a ghost video. Let's do that.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
Vince, do you want to take the screen back for the video?
Sure. Let me just find it quickly. Was it on Twitter it was posted?
YouTube. I don't know if it's on X also, but it's under YouTube.
Let me check.
I watched it on mute, and I can just picture Kemp in the background, like stomping his feet and throwing a tantrum.
Okay, here we go. Let me remove Scott, add me, and let's see how bad is the sound.
Rocket Lab has mastered the art of building launch sites. Now, we're making them deployable with Ghost, turning our Electron and HASTE rockets into a launch anywhere, launch anytime capability that meets the most demanding missions.
Strengthening America's missile defense capability is incredibly important. Analysis only gets you so far. Eventually, you need to be producing hardware and testing it in the field. If you cannot test your missile defense system at a high cadence, frankly, you're just not going to keep pace with the threat, because you're not evolving your own capability as quickly as you could. Missile defense testing is often more geographically relevant, and so there needs to be missile defense tests in the Atlantic. They need to be in the Pacific. They need to be at partner nations. And so that's why developing the capability to perform those tests in those areas is so important.
Pack it, ship it, launch it. Ghost can deploy rockets, infrastructure, ground support equipment, and range control systems from standard shipping containers to anywhere in the world.
Speed on station, speed to orbit, speed to test. Speed has been the name of the game in recent national security applications. And so our ability to deploy this quickly, get into a launch campaign, pick it up and move it, not only does it make it very affordable because you're not spending a lot of time waiting around, but it is exactly what the government has been looking for in terms of moving at the pace of the threat, accomplishing a lot of tests in a given year, and not having to spend a whole bunch of money to do so. Kodiak, Alaska was the right solution for the first deployment of our mobile launch architecture, really in support of our missile defense customers who needed Pacific access. But it's important to remember that HASTE and Electron use the same launch infrastructure. And so not only is this a suborbital capability, but this is now an orbital launch capability that we can bring anywhere in the world.
More orbital options, hypersonic flight tests on demand, accelerated timelines. Ghost is purpose-built for rapid activation within days and multiple missions at once, bringing launch to the location that serves the mission.
Rocket Lab's approach to deployable launch infrastructure sets us apart from basically everybody else because it's Electron, and we've demonstrated high-rate, reliable launch capability. That's really the discriminator. And so our approach is to bring that level of reliability into a mobile architecture that can be moved around. Now, once you complete a launch campaign, you're able to package that up and move it somewhere else. That somewhere else can be addressing a missile defense application, something suborbital or orbital. And if you can move a launch site somewhere near the equator, if you can move it to a partner nation, now you can address sovereign launch capability, and you can address a variety of new orbits, which open up new markets. Execution is key. We have the credibility to execute, and now we're bringing that into a new application. It's a very exciting time to say that now we have the capability, we have the hardware and the infrastructure to move this around and go address new global markets.
What do you guys think?
That's very cool, and a sign of things to come.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you're seeing. I mean, that's the shipping container in the video. It shows them. I mean, so that's probably them testing operations somewhere. But like, there was one scene where they opened those doors and I saw snow in the background. Is it snowing in New Zealand, or were they already up there? Did you guys see that?
It is actually
close.
It is actually winter in New Zealand. I don't know if it snows in Mahia, but it's definitely winter for them.
That one, or oops, we did a different screen. Yeah, no, I think that's I mean, that's cool. And they be able to pack it up. I mean, that's always been Peter Beck's biggest thing is like, I hate pad costs or hate the fixed cost of it having being there. But if they're saying like, all right, we'll go up there and do a bunch of these missions, and let's say in 4 or 5 years, like 4 years, that there's not the demand there, cool, pack it up, save your infrastructure, and then go do it somewhere else or move it somewhere else. I think it's really cool.
It looks like wherever they're opening that container is very cold. They have like parkas on.
So what I'm wondering, maybe that photo wasn't AI,
right?
I don't think it's an actual, I'm willing to bet that's not like a properly installed anything. Like it's probably just like an empty, kind of in the way that Astra just shipped Rocket 4 to Lord knows where. I don't think that's like an actual like rocket intended to launch.
There.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's no way. That's got to be AI. They don't have they wouldn't have had a Electron on the pad with a logo on it and everything else, right? It's 6 months out for the first launch. I don't know.
None of us knowing about it.
That's a computer got to be computer generated. I don't know.
Think like none of us knowing about it. Like anything happens basically anywhere on the planet. Like we get all the pictures and. Well, how would someone have like an Electron standing out in the open and it would just not be caught by the
Kodiak has no one there. There's no like, I mean, there's a few people that live there, but it's most of the island's like a wildlife protected area. But
I was going to say we don't have any boots in the ground over in Kodiak.
I know that the work they were talking about for Pad 4A and B that they brought up in there, where they showed the graphic, that is the same thing that has the contracts out for some of the plumbing work on it. So for the connection pieces, so that job is being advertised to like in the state of Alaska up there. So I can't think that it's done yet. So I don't know. We'll see. Guess we'll find out in the fall.
Mm-hmm. All right. So moving into financial highlights and outlook. Review of revenue and gross margins. So $234 million in revenue in Q2 2026. Let me just bring up, whoops. Oh, hold on, I lost my screen. Give me 1 sec. 62% year-on-year increase in revenue. Very impressive. So $89.6 million year-on-year, driven by growth in Space Systems business, primarily due to increased contribution from the SDA Tranche 2 and Tranche 3 contracts in our components businesses. Sequential revenue increase of 16.8% quarter over quarter, or $33.7 million, driven by growth in our satellite platforms business, paired with growth in our components business, particularly laser communications, as we integrate the Mynaric acquisition. Year-on-year GAAP gross margin increase was driven by an increase in Electron fixed cost absorption due to increased launch cadence and increased average selling price, paired with a favorable product mix within our space systems business. Quarter-over-quarter, Q2 gross margin decrease was driven by a shift in mix within our space systems business as our slightly lower gross margin satellite platforms business begins to take more share. A review of backlog, $2.36 billion as of Q2 end. You can see the backlog by segments, backlog by customer. Sequential backlog increase of 6.1% quarter-over-quarter, or $136 million, driven by significant bookings within both launch segment and space systems as well. We expect approximately 45% of the Q2 ending backlog to be recognized within 12 months, and the remaining 54% to be recognized beyond the 12 months. Healthy pipeline, including multi-launch deals and large satellite manufacturing contracts, can create lumpiness in backlog growth given the size and complexities of these opportunities. Worth keeping in mind while we're on this screen is that we've seen several meaningful contracts since the close of Q2.
Yeah, earlier in the presentation they said 800 million plus since, or almost 800 million or something like that since the close of Q2. So this is going to jump to probably over 3 billion next quarter.
Nice. Review of operating expenses. GAAP and non-GAAP SG&A expense increased sequentially primarily due to the integration of the Mynaric acquisition. GAAP and non-GAAP R&D expense also increased primarily due to the integration of the Mynaric acquisition paired with continued investment within the Neutron program.
The loss is so tiny now, the adjusted EBITDA.
So $22.4 billion in cash and cash equivalents, marketable securities, and restricted cash enables continued investment in strategic growth opportunities. GAAP EPS loss declined sequentially, primarily due to the inclusion of Mynaric results following the acquisition close during the quarter, which we expect to meaningfully improve as we look to scale the business and realize synergies. Purchases of property equipment and capitalized software decreased $1 million sequentially to $26 million as we continue to invest in the return on investment barge, as well as launch and test infrastructure. Negative GAAP operating cash flow decreased $33.7 million sequentially as we continue to invest in scaling Neutron beyond Flight 1 and invest in inventory for future flights, paired with fees related to the announced transaction of Iridium. Adjusted EBITDA loss improved to $2.9 million sequentially due to a strong increase in revenue paired with strong gross margin. Q3 2026 outlook. Expect revenue to range between 250 million to 265 million. So I guess that's our billion right there. Expect year-over-year increases in both space systems and launch revenue. Expect GAAP gross margin range between 29 and 31%, driven by weaker mix within several of our product lines. And that will also be non-GAAP gross margin of 35 to 37%. Expect GAAP operating expenses of 143 to 149 million, and for non-GAAP 121 to 127 million. For adjusted EBITDA, a few things here. Expect interest income of 21 million, adjusted EBITDA loss of 17 to 23 million, and then weighted average shares outstanding of 641 million. Cool.
Did they mention the ATM at all?
No.
I was kind of wondering the same thing. I wanted to know if that was done.
Yeah,
I sure hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how are you guys feeling about the 2023 outlook?
I think they're gonna. I don't know. I still feel like they're gonna beat it, but see, looks good. I mean, if that's Q3, I just feel like, I mean, the stuff that they're adding in as they've been adding in over this year that's gonna start like ramping. So I don't know. Maybe Q4 will be where we see a huge jump again in revenue guide. But that's still really good. I mean, we're growing quarter over quarter over quarter. So. how are you guys feeling about everything? There was one more PR, by the way, that came out. There was three besides the. There was just the last PR was the establishing Rocket Lab Germany.
Oh, the Germany one.
Yeah,
Cool.
there's a little some quotes and stuff in there.
Is there like any? Okay, so Rocket Lab Corporation has formally announced the establishment of Rocket Lab Germany GmbH. The strategic expansion is a milestone in the company's international growth and supports potential future scaling of Rocket Lab satellite and component manufacturing in Germany to provide sovereign space capabilities to Europe. Rocket Lab has already established a foothold in Europe with the strategic acquisition of Mynaric AG, a premier provider of laser optical communications terminals based in Munich. As part of Rocket Lab, Mynaric will continue to produce its industry-leading optical terminals and develop future optical terminals or optical communications technology. Rocket Lab will apply its proven manufacturing and supply chain expertise to increase Mynaric's scale and efficiency to serve European and global demand. With the establishment of Rocket Lab Germany, the company is also pursuing opportunities that could lead to the establishment of satellite, payload, and components manufacturing in Germany, creating a regional hub for Constellation-class manufacturing to serve the evolving needs of European customers. Europe is increasingly focused on strengthening its strategic autonomy and sovereignty in space, with the next decade poised for an unprecedented boom in European demand that will see thousands of satellites deployed to commercial, defense, and national security needs. Rocket Lab Germany is intended to not only enable scaled domestic production of satellites and their critical components, but also deliver launch services on Electron and Neutron, ensuring critical European programs have assured access to space.
LC5.
Yeah, really.
I mean, that doesn't that
Or
the way
Ghost
I
too?
yeah, but I don't think you can launch Neutron out of shipping containers. I think it's a bit too
No.
big. Yeah, but it doesn't. Do you guys see the same thing as me? That it says that deliver launch services on Electron and Neutron for Europe.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Yeah, they've been. I mean, they've been talking about needing more launch constantly. So, I mean, yeah, and their domestic launch market isn't. There is no one's stepping ahead over there yet. So, yeah, and they can't wait another 5 years for somebody else to come in and finally maybe be able to launch small launch. So,
yeah,
it's good for us.
And Peter's mentioned in the past, like I'm heavily paraphrasing here, but he said something to the effect of like, we're open to launching out of other countries, but they basically have to have like a sovereign payload ready to go. So if they want us to launch for them and provide the payload, we're ready when you are, kind of a thing. So them establishing a footprint, especially like, in Germany of all places, that's very, very telling.
And it's smart because Germany, in addition to there's ESA money or the European Space Agency money, but then Germany's, I can't say their name of their military, but their military is spending faster than like any other individual country in Europe. So like that's, yeah, if we're gonna put it somewhere besides obviously having Mynaric there, but that would be the country to want to be in.
Cool. Do you guys have anything else to add about Germany?
I hope they will launch out of Sweden. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, did you read that last quote from that announcement?
Oh, no.
I think you skipped over it. You should read the next quote.
So this is Peter Beck. Europe's space industry is undergoing a profound structural shift towards an era defined by speed, commercial agility, and absolute technical sovereignty, said Rocket Lab founder and CEO Sir Peter Beck. The demand for sovereign space capability has never been more urgent. Europe faces glaring gaps across both launch and spacecraft manufacturing. Rocket Lab Germany addresses these directly, combining opportunities for high-frequency access to space with high-volume satellite production to deploy resilient constellations on rapid timelines. With this strategic expansion, Rocket Lab is making a clear commitment to Europe that ensures the region has domestic strength to secure, defend, and discover in a rapidly evolving new space era. Very cool. Yeah.
There was also a thing today that that came out and said from somebody that they filled a position. Fraser found it. That was the head of Europe or Germany, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it, but there was basically saying like they were no longer accepting applications for the position. And it was some head position over there. So
it rings a bell. Yeah. Oh, maybe was that just it? Oh, I think I just saw it for a glimpse and then disappeared. I know what you're talking about though. Interesting.
Okay, so what do you guys think so far?
I think it's a lot of reiterating on the execution that they've been like slowly giving us. Like we've seen, I think the majority of these things. It's good to see the bottom line as usual. I think the Neutron, all the language sounds like probably not Q4. And I think the stock price is reacting a little bit to that. It's not terrible. So
it was down last earnings calls too.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
that's
it never peaked up after hours. I'm thinking it'll be if whatever the move is going to be, it'll be tomorrow. But
yeah, I mean, financially speaking, everything looks great, right? But I think a lot of folks are looking forward to a Neutron update, and this doesn't seem. And maybe they'll have more color during the call, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited about Ghost. I mean, that's pretty cool, and I really want to know whether that picture is real or not.
Yeah. I mean, I also feel like it's everything you want to see in the earnings. There was just no like a wow or big surprise this quarter. It was everything like we kind of knew about, except for the Ghost. But I have no clue on the Ghost if they have orders for it. What's the TAM? What like? Yeah, I don't know. Like I kind of have seen. I think it was Astra and also Firefly that was trying with this, that you can ship in containers and launch from anywhere, and none of them got contracts or delivered. It might have to do with the fact that they have zero cadence.
So you need a rocket. You can,
yeah.
Sorry, Firefly and Astra.
Didn't we see Astra somewhere in Europe recently? They had like a container out there with a rocket, and for some reason.
I think it was in the UK.
It was like their whole rocket core. Yeah.
That was so random if you think about it, because like the tweet went out and then you would think that there's like a follow-up announcement. But now that like months have passed and you're like, okay, you just shipped the Rocket 4 in a container to England. Okay, random.
And even stranger is like in the replies to that, he's like, yeah, we're launching at a US first. We're like, then why did you send it across the world? Like, what are you doing? Sure, he's got.
I found that thing from Fraser earlier, by the way. It was the director of European government operations, based out of Munich, and that position is no longer accepting applications. So that's good. I'm excited for all this so far. It sounds really good. I mean, I think the Ghost thing's huge. I think them establishing Rocket Lab Europe is going to open up all kinds of like that. That's how we're getting our foot in the TAM over there. So I mean. And I don't think contracts are slowing down. We also got MTO, the Mars Telecommunication Orbiter. We should know before the end of September. So I don't know. I'm excited, bullish. I like what I hear.
I'm also excited. I mean, it's everything you wanted to hear in this report. But I'm gonna call it as I see it. I don't think Neutron is launching in 2026. I don't like how they worded it. Even if I get flack for this, I'm like, okay, I don't think.
I think
after the tank failure, I'm like 2028. It's fine. It just surprised me when it's before 2028. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I just really hope like what would be really cool is if somehow Sir Peter Beck could be like, yeah, we found a way how we can maybe scale Neutron faster. Like even if there's a delay, if he could say that we have done so much testing on the components that. Like the components that we're confident in, we're actually starting mass producing so we can scale faster. And we think it can be like 148 or something like this on the scale. That would be really good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, and I think if they can, they will, but I still feel like they're not going to know until that first flight's done. I think that first flight will determine the cadence ramp. If it goes perfectly or nearly perfectly, then I feel like we could go faster, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so hard to tell ahead of time because you never test everything all the way together till the end.
Yeah, it's just, for example, on the interstage, right? Like it cracked and then they understood like, okay, we made a mistake here. I don't know if these things make them confident that, okay, like we can maybe, I don't know. I want to see if we get more color on this.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I don't understand, I'm not a rocket engineer, that you have like, the qualifications testing, and then it's like acceptance testing, and then pre-flight testing, and I'm like, what the F are you guys testing all the time? Like, why can't you just do like one big test campaign and that's it? And then because like sometimes I wonder, like, okay, but what do you guys like? You hot fired the Archimedes engine like 400 times, and then it has to be like acceptance tested at the pad. Like, you think that the other guys were like just faking, or like, I don't know, but I'm sure there's a good reason. It's just it feels like we go from test to test to test to test to test, and yeah.
I mean, I for one am going to be really happy when we have like no major failure in the first 10 launches or so because of something like this. Because imagine it's like flight 5 and we have a payload on there, and then we find something horrible out. I don't know. I would be much happier. Please don't blow up the pad. Do not pull a Blue Origin. And I guess I'm getting more zen about it because I know all this is happening. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I agree. I feel like, I don't know. I guess I don't know either way. I just know that once they do get it like set straightened out, that they'll be able to ramp it faster. What do you guys think they're going to expand Electron's production line now after the introduction of Ghost? I mean, they're going to be getting closer to that like 50 a year cadence here within a couple of years, right? If the rate is going the same direction.
Probably nothing yet. I'd imagine like that'd be a year or two off. Like I'd imagine they'd probably be like closer to the time that they're done scaling, or like that Neutron's flying, I guess. I think that's when we start to see some serious upgrades. They're already like it's like 1 a week is kind of what they call for now, right?
Yeah, they said about 52 a year. Yeah, so that's at 150 a year.
Yeah. Do you guys think that like the Ghost, for example, has to do something with the Iran war, because there is like this widespread rumors that the US is very low on ballistic interceptors, and like the administration is really worried that there's no more ways to pressure Iran, and now they're willing to walk away from the nuclear deal, maybe just open the strait. And I'm like, is it that suddenly this topic is very hot and everybody's looking for new ways to intercept missiles? And that, because I kind of wonder, like they said in Ghost that to do the test, like you need to be in the country, and I'm like, because I'm like, a test is a test, right? And I'm like, why is it better that you ship it to somewhere else? And I'm like, do they mean that, okay, they're gonna ship them to Omar or something and try to see, like, I don't know, just completely speculating here.
No, I mean, this stuff is like was all planned out before the Iran war started. So the hypersonics, like the plus up they got, and went from the Golden Dome thing went from 175 to 185 billion. That 10 extra billion they got in the last like 8 months ago, 9 months ago, or something like that was part of it was to accelerate hypersonics testing. So this is a direct line from that. All of this stuff is based out of the Golden Dome stuff, and then the military has been behind on hypersonics testing in general. Hence the reason why we have haste. So I personally don't think this is just directly related to the Iran conflict, because I mean they're talking about running out of like smart munition and stuff, and we're testing. We'll help test those munitions, but as far as I know, we're not planning on producing missiles anytime soon. But
yeah. Is my connection bad? I saw a comment that it's like my connection is always bad. You guys hear me?
Your face freezes a lot, but your voice is always good to me.
Okay, good. The voice is the one that matters.
So just before the call starts, I put something very quick together, because one thing that I'll use the word worried for lack of a better way to put it. One thing that I'm worried about with Rocket Lab over the next, I guess, a year, next few quarters here, is a lot of folks are just going to be like, okay, what's Rocket Lab's earnings, and not factor in anything to do with Iridium at all. But if we were to factor in Iridium, actually, Vince, can I just share my screen again?
Sure.
Or wait, hold on. I am sharing my screen, but I have the wrong screen open. Too many tabs. Hold on one sec. Just trying to track down the tab I have. There we go. Take that at a full screen, bring this in. So there we go. So maybe that's too close. So quick overview. This is Iridium's financials at first, and then Rocket Labs are pulled in from the Rocket Lab tab. And then down below we have pro forma. So this is what the companies would look like as though they've been together this whole time. To make a long story short, Iridium stuff's already plugged in. Rocket Labs just got plugged in, only at the revenue level so far. But it's enough to get us to the point where we're able to kind of determine right here. I'll bring that in. These are the growth rates that we're looking at for each of the, I'm sure it'll be chiseled down once Iridium's brought in. But there are, what, five different revenue streams at the moment. And you can see it goes quarterly, annual, etc. On the left here, you can see launch, space systems, services. Quick side note, launch and space systems, that would be Rocket Lab. Services, subscriber equipment and engineering and support, that would be coming from Iridium's side. And then total down below doesn't need an explanation. So quarterly revenue, what we're looking at pro forma is actually going to be 9.5% between the two. And we're still, 27% otherwise. So between the two companies, still growing at a very healthy, very respectable, we'll call it mid-20s. And I mean, yeah, worth keeping in mind that it's not just Rocket Lab that we're looking at anymore. It's going to be Iridium over the next few quarters as well.
What's the combined total revenue per quarter?
That'd be 459 would be for Q2 for the total revenue for those. Okay,
so when they merge, it's like basically like a 2 billion run rate.
Yeah. We can scroll ahead to heavy grain of salt because nothing's been weighted or whatever. But yeah, we're north of 2 billion by the time this closes.
My thing with Iridium is in general is like the whole idea of this whole. I mean, my thing is either you believe there's an explosion in the TAM of everything in the space industry going forward, and therefore maybe it won't come with exactly what Iridium has set up now, but they're moving on. That's why they acquired Aireon as well. So like there's either like the growth rate's for the whole TAM is gonna explode, and I think we'll find a lot of ways to kind of accelerate our growth in the IoT market and PNT and stuff like that, or you think that like ultimately the TAM of space is a lot smaller and anemic growth is what it's going to be. I'm for one, I'm a bull on space, so I think it's going to continue to grow. Granted, yeah, I know I'm not saying like I don't know how they're going to do it, but I guarantee that they have thought through like the needing for growth there, and I'm excited to see what they all come up with, because you get their entire engineering teams and all the talent pool plus all these other companies. I mean, I don't know. I'm excited. I feel like they have some really good ingredients to do some really amazing things. So, but necessarily will it, like, the day that the deal closes, the growth might be a little bit slower at first for the combined company. Maybe depends on what Rocket Lab itself is growing at that point too.
So I'm listening to the music on the call. The minute it stops, we switch over because I see a lot of people asking. So we're keeping track. Right now, it's jazz music playing on the call. So we're not missing anything.
You know what I didn't see in the update was ROI. Oh, sorry. Return on investment. The barge.
There was one passing mention, but nothing too in detail.
Conference is being recorded. After the speaker's presentation, there will be a question and answer session. To ask a question, please press star 11 on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. To withdraw your question, please press star 11 again. I would now like to hand the conference over to your speaker today, Muriel Baker.
Hello and welcome to today's conference call to discuss Rocket Lab's second quarter 2026 financial results, business highlights, and other updates. Before we begin the call, I'd like to remind you that our remarks may contain forward-looking statements that relate to the future performance of the company, and these statements are intended to qualify for the safe harbor protection from liability established by the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act. Any such statements are not guarantees of future performance, and factors that could influence our results are highlighted in today's press release, and others are contained in our filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Such statements are based upon information available to the company as of the date hereof and are subject to change for future developments. Except as required by law, the company does not undertake any obligation to update these statements. Our remarks and press release today also contain non-GAAP financial measures within the meaning of Regulation G enacted by the SEC, and included in such release and our supplemental materials are reconciliations of these historical non-GAAP financial measures to the comparable financial measures calculated in accordance with GAAP. This call is also being webcast with a supporting presentation, and a replay and copy of the presentation will be available on our website. Our speakers today are Rocket Lab founder and Chief Executive Officer Sir Peter Beck, as well as Chief Financial Officer Adam Spice. They will be discussing key business highlights, including updates on our launch, space systems programs, as well as our pending acquisition of Iridium Communications. We will discuss financial highlights and outlook before we finish by taking questions. So with that, let me turn the call over to Sir Peter.
It's been another exceptional quarter for Rocket Lab, with some great wins after the close. We achieved a record $234 million in Q2 revenue, up almost $90 million or 62% versus the same quarter last year. That's a $34 million increase over last quarter's record revenue. For launch, demand is extreme. In Q2, and since the end of the quarter closed, we've signed more than $437 million in bookings for Electron, HASTE, and Neutron. This includes a record $266 million contract for up to 18 suborbital missions for the Space Force, our largest launch contract ever. Also, we've seen a massive surge in space systems contracts, with more than $581 million signed in Q2 and post-quarter. We ended the quarter with a $2.36 billion in backlog, and across launch and space systems, we've signed more than $1 billion in new contracts across Q2 and the period since the quarter close. It was also a milestone quarter for strategic acquisitions, having closed Mynaric and Motive, and of course announcing our intentions to acquire Iridium, which will accelerate our future in space applications and involve Rocket Lab into a fully integrated space powerhouse. So with that, welcome to the beginning of our new space applications era. Our pending Iridium acquisition is a strategic move that will combine Rocket Lab's launch capability and satellite manufacturing with Iridium's global satellite communications network and rare spectrum. In short, Rocket Lab will become a self-launching Tier 1 space power, delivering critical communications capability to millions of users worldwide. For years, we've talked about the space value chain in three key verticals. The first is access to space, and we have that with launch. The second is the hardware to do things in space once you're there. That's the satellites and their components, and we have this too. The third and final vertical is space applications, the entire reason for going to space in the first place. This is part of the space economy that provides data, services to millions of people on Earth and delivers strong recurring revenue. With Iridium, Rocket Lab will have all three of these verticals. I've long since said that the most successful space companies will be the ones that have the keys to space, i.e. can build and launch their own satellites. Rocket Lab is one of only two companies capable of this now. By acquiring Iridium, we will accelerate our entrance into the space applications market. It will take a decade or more to build out a constellation from scratch. With Iridium, we are starting with a constellation of 66 satellites relied upon by more than 2.5 million subscribers and delivering more than $870 million in annual revenue this past year. That's an incredibly strong foundation on which we intend to build. We won't simply continue Iridium's network. We will expand upon it and scale it into untapped markets and pioneer new space-based services. Since the transaction is not yet closed, we are still only on the integration and growth planning stages. There are, however, some obvious areas to focus on, and these are aligned with the growth plans that Iridium has already shared. That includes expanding capabilities in IoT, direct-to-device, and advanced PNT, defense and national security, as well as aviation and marine safety. We can also introduce efficiencies and streamline the deployment of new infrastructure by building and launching our own spacecraft, limiting the costs and risks associated with third parties. We will fast-track our ability to deliver new and advanced capabilities. It's through these growth areas that Rocket Lab will put Iridium spectrum to more effective use, extracting substantially greater capacity and throughput from the same finite spectrum allocation. We are immensely excited at what the future holds once Iridium is part of the Rocket Lab family. For now, we're steadily working through the customary closing conditions, including approval of Iridium stockholders and all the regulatory review processes. The transaction is expected to be completed in mid-2027. To the extent that we are able, we look forward to sharing updates throughout that process. Okay, on to some space systems updates. Q2 and the weeks after saw us awarded significant contracts across space systems, including a $397 million contract to build and launch multiple satellite spacecraft for the Space Force Space-Based Airborne Moving Target Indicator program. This program is a high priority for the Department of War, and it seeks to establish a satellite network to track aircraft, missiles, and airborne threats globally. And another example of our end-to-end space strategy bearing fruit, Neutron will be launching this mission. Flatellite is our high-performance, low-profile spacecraft designed for rapid production and optimized for launch, enabling us to deploy large volumes from Neutron and from other launch vehicles. There has been significant interest in Flatellite from commercial and government customers since we first announced it last year, so it's exciting for it to make its debut with such an important program. On to the next contract win. We signed 2 deals totaling more than $160 million to build 3 geostationary satellites, including a prime contract with the Space Systems Command to build 2 geosatellites for space domain awareness. What's more, they will incorporate our Heimdall payload from our recently acquired company Geost, once again highlighting the success of our vertical integration strategy. Rocket Lab is no stranger to building satellites for low Earth orbit and interplanetary missions, but these contracts are our first step into the government geostationary satellite market. It's an exciting expansion. We don't just win contracts, we execute on them. There's no better mission that demonstrates that than our record-breaking results for the Victus Haze mission in Q2. The mission from Space Force was clear. Launch an Electron to orbit in just 24 hours. We did this in 16 hours and 42 minutes, a new record. We also designed and built the satellite that it launched. The Space Force gave us 72 hours to commission that spacecraft on orbit. We did it in 38. Then we had 84 hours to track, chase, and photograph a non-cooperative satellite. We did it in less than 59. Victus Haze was the first time that the Space Force had ever seen a single prime contractor deliver the rocket, the spacecraft, and the orbit operations for the same tactically responsive space mission. For Rocket Lab to deliver all 3 and with record-breaking results demonstrates the advanced capabilities that we're delivering to the Pentagon at a time when space is a key strategic priority. And finally, Rocket Lab is very clearly a space leader in the US, but recently we deepened our roots in Europe with the acquisition of Mynaric. Whenever Rocket Lab makes an acquisition, we don't just carry on running it. We streamline it, introduce efficiencies, scale production, and in many cases, introduce new capabilities. We're planning to do just that with the official establishment of Rocket Lab Germany. There's a real opportunity here for us to establish a regional hub for constellation-class manufacturing as well as full-scale spacecraft, assembly, integration, and test. This will enable Rocket Lab to serve commercial, civil, and defense space programs as a domestic European provider. Our growing presence there also represents an opportunity to address Europe's launch deficit by bringing a domestic, mission-tested launch partner to the region to eliminate space access bottlenecks. Europe faces glaring gaps across both launch and spacecraft manufacturing. Rocket Lab Germany aims to address these directly, providing the region with new domestic strength in a rapidly evolving new space era. That wraps up the space systems for the quarter. Let's move on to launch. There's been huge demand driving record numbers across new contracts and launch backlog. More than $437 million in Q2 and post-quarter, and 26 new launches that grew our backlog to 90+ launches after the quarter, our highest in history. Operationally, Electron and HASTE continue to lead the industry on small launch. We're at 13 launches this year with 100% mission success and on track to beat last year's launch tally too. NASA has signed on for 3 Electron launches across 2 missions next year. Commercial constellation customer QPS has signed on for another 3 launches. This is the third time they've done a bulk buy in less than a year, taking their total number of launches with us to 18. And we've had a confidential defence prime sign up for a pair of HASTE launches in 2027. HASTE, rapid, repeatable flight cadence, was the clincher for that deal. A suborbital launch capability anchors our largest launch contracts to date, a $266 million contract from the Space Force for up to 18 missile defence launches. We bid out legacy defence primes for this contract, and it's our second multi-year, multi-launch Department of War deal for suborbital missions in 5 months. These launches will mostly fly out of our new launch location in Kodiak, Alaska, which opens up Pacific access for missile defence testing for our government partner. That's now 6 Rocket Lab launch pads across 3 launch sites, giving us unmatched geographical flexibility for all mission types. Speaking of our new launch location, it's time to introduce Ghost. We've mastered the art of building launch sites. Now we're making them deployable worldwide. Our 2 new pads in Alaska will be deployed using our Ghost containerized deployable launch site technology. Electron and HASTE revolutionized small orbital launch and hypersonic testing. Now we're making it easier to deploy them wherever they're needed most, whether that's for missile defense testing or sovereign orbital launch capability. With Ghost, we'll deliver the rocket, launch infrastructure, ground support, and range control systems and shipping containers, establishing launch capability in new locations on rapid timelines. It's easy to promise mobile or deployed launch systems. It's quite another to have the proven rockets, launch sites, and contracts to back them up. Once again, Rocket Lab is not just talking about it. We're delivering the real capability for real missions. Now on to Neutron. It's been another really big quarter of testing and integration for Neutron. Every part of the vehicle has now seen significant testing. As with any complex development program, we've had to tweak a few things along the way, but we're moving now into final checkouts and assembly of all of our flight hardware before integrating them at the pad. First up, Stage 1. We've pulled the new barrels and domes off the AFP for the Stage 1 tank and are moving those into assembly. For the interstage, new panels are also into the flight assembly after qualification load tests were completed recently. Production currently lines up with a target delivery of Neutron to the pad in Q4 2026. While the window for an end-of-year launch is narrowing, the work we're doing now is about risk trading, balancing the timing of our first launch against how quickly and seamlessly we can scale our 10th launch. Our focus is on the bigger picture and making sure that when Neutron flies, it enters service as a system ready for full-scale production and high-cadence launch. For Stage 2, the team is completing the install of flight avionics and fluid systems before it's out the door to launch Complex 3. Once it arrives in Virginia, we'll be doing the integrated fluids testing and running the flight avionics suite to validate Stage 2's end-to-end performance before we add the Archimedes vacuum engine. That way we de-risk some of the elements early and avoided added time to the schedule. The next section of the rocket at LC3 will be Neutron's thrust module. The auxiliary tanks have been installed and the fluid systems and avionics integration is finishing up now. Similar story here as well. After the install of the fluids and the avionics, we'll be taking the thrust module through the integrated systems test on the pad. Because the module is the only physical interface between the launch vehicle and the launch mount, running these tests before we integrate the thrust module with Stage 1 lets us de-risk how the full vehicle will interact with the pad once everything else arrives. Down at Stennis, we're heading off into the final stretch of Archimedes engine testing. We've completed more than 400 hot fires across both Stage 1 engines and Stage 2 vacuum engines. Where early testing was all about the fundamentals like power level, mixture ratio control, and achieving duration, now it's about durability and the stuff that really matters for a reusable engine. We've been intentionally running engines for extended time to prove its margins beyond what they need for its successful flight, as well as repeated cycles to understand how durable the engines are after multiple restarts and uses. With confidence in the engine, we're already into production with the full engine set for Neutron's first launch. Once we formally complete qualification, those flight engines will go straight into an acceptance test program at Stennis before they're sent up to LC3 for integration with a thrust module. And now to Hungry Hippo. The team has been busy integrating control surfaces, avionics and fluid systems, and its thermal protection system, and soon we'll be getting into pre-flight testing with the most innovative part of Neutron. Once that's done, Hungry Hippo is essentially finished and ready for launch. The next step will be to mate it to the interstage when it arrives, and then that will bring us one step closer to having a full vehicle at the launch pad. Out of development and into new contracts. As we race closer to first launch, we're seeing huge demand for Neutron's early flights. Like I've mentioned earlier, we've been newly awarded a dedicated Neutron launch contract for the Space Force for their Space-Based Airborne Moving Targets program. This mission is a strong indicator of the trust that the government has in Neutron to support the most critical national security programs. And then on the commercial side, today we announced a dedicated launch for Kepler Communications to deliver their next set of satellites to low Earth orbit. That mission will expand the capacity of their network with on-orbit compute, optical comms, and hosted payloads. And it's the first time Kepler has booked an entire rocket for their constellation rather than rideshare. Again, another strong signal of the expectation for Neutron to become the industry's alternate ride to space for medium-lift missions. To understand the momentum behind Neutron, you have to look at the broader launch landscape today. Launch has never been so constrained. The Pentagon is accelerating procurement for its top priority programs, like we've seen with the NSSL Lane 1 tripling its ceiling from $5.6 billion to $17 billion. Military spending in Europe has increased and sovereign launch remains a hot topic globally too. The truth is that if you want to book a launch now, or especially after 2029, the options are extremely limited. Rocket Lab is uniquely positioned in this sense. We have a proven track record with Electron and HACE, and customers know we develop and scale reliable launch vehicles, which is why they're coming to us now and locking in Neutron slots early. Neutron is going to help unblock the industry's bottleneck, giving operators a reliable capacity that they need for years to come. That wraps up the operational highlights. Now over to Adam for the financial overview and outlook.
Thanks, Pete. Second quarter 2026 revenue was a record $234 million, which was within our prior guidance range and reflects significant year-over-year growth of 62% and 16.8% sequentially, driven by strong contribution from both business segments. Our Space Systems segment delivered $189.5 million in the quarter, reflecting a sequential increase of 38.6%. This growth was primarily driven by increased contribution from our satellite manufacturing business, along with initial contribution from our Mynaric acquisition, which closed within the quarter. Our Space Systems business continues to perform exceptionally well and provides comforting diversification alongside a robust, but at times lumpy launch business. Meanwhile, our Launch Services segment generated revenue of $44.6 million this quarter, representing a 30% decrease compared to the previous quarter, despite completing a similar number of launches. This decline is primarily attributable to a shift in the revenue mix between our point-in-time Electron business and our over-time HASTE business. This quarter was somewhat atypical for our launch operations, as we launched HASTE missions for which a significant portion of revenue had already been recognized in prior periods under the overtime accounting method. In contrast, revenue from Electron missions is recognized at the point of time of launch. Now turning to gross margin. GAAP gross margin for the second quarter was 36.1%, above our prior guidance range of 33 to 35%. Non-GAAP gross margin for the second quarter was 41.5%, which was also above our prior guidance range of 38 to 40%. Key drivers to gross margin this quarter include a shift mix within our Space Systems business to our slightly lower gross margin satellite platforms business and initial contributions from our Mynaric acquisition, which, similar to prior acquisitions, will need some time to benefit from integration synergies and applying the Rocket Lab operating system and its related scale advantages. Additionally, we recorded a non-recurring benefit from tariff refunds, which was largely offset by an inventory reserve against our Neutron Flight 2 launch vehicle. Relatedly, we ended Q2 with production-related headcount of 1,688, up 240 from the prior quarter. Turning to backlog, we ended Q2 2026 with approximately $2.36 billion in total backlog, with launch backlog accounting for approximately 40% and Space Systems representing 60%. While bookings across Space Systems and launch can be inherently lumpy due to the timing of increasingly larger, high-impact program opportunities, backlog continues to hold at healthy levels despite the step-up in revenue run rate recognition over the past few quarters. We continue to see a strong pipeline that includes multi-launch agreements and large satellite manufacturing contracts across government and commercial programs. Notably, subsequent to the quarter end, we signed a significant volume of contracts within Space Systems and launch across all vehicles, which will be reflected in our Q3 backlog and further strengthen our momentum across the business. Looking ahead, we expect approximately 45.5% of our current backlog to convert into revenue within the next 12 months. Additionally, we continue to benefit from relatively quick turns business across launch and Space Systems components businesses that drive incremental top-line contribution beyond the current 12-month backlog conversion. Turning to operating expenses. GAAP operating expenses for the second quarter of 2026 were $142.1 million, within our guidance range of $138 to $144 million. Non-GAAP operating expenses for the second quarter were $115.7 million, which was below our guidance range of $120 to $126 million. In R&D specifically, GAAP expenses increased $1.9 million quarter over quarter, while non-GAAP expenses rose $830,000. These increases were primarily due to incorporating Mynaric expenses as that acquisition closed in the quarter. Q2 ending R&D headcount was 1,087, representing an increase of 138 for the prior quarter. In SG&A, GAAP expenses increased $7.7 million quarter over quarter, while non-GAAP expenses increased $9.8 million quarter over quarter. The increase in SG&A was primarily due to incorporating Mynaric expenses, again as that acquisition closed in the quarter. Q2 ending SG&A headcount was 442, representing an increase of 61 from the prior quarter. In summary, total headcount at the end of the second quarter was 3,217, up 439 heads from the prior quarter. Turning to cash. Purchases of property, equipment, and capitalized software licenses were $26 million in the second quarter of 2026, a decrease of $1 million from the $27.1 million in the first quarter. We continue to invest in Neutron, particularly for the return on investment recovery barge, as well as launch and test infrastructure investments. As we progress towards Neutron's first flight, we expect capital expenditures to remain elevated as we invest in testing, production scaling, and infrastructure expansion. GAAP EPS for the second quarter was a loss of 8 cents per share, compared to a loss of 7 cents per share in the first quarter. The sequential decline in GAAP EPS primarily reflects the inclusion of Mynaric's results after the acquisition closed, including amortization of intangible assets acquired. GAAP operating cash flow was a use of $84.1 million in the second quarter of 2026, compared to a use of $50.3 million in the first quarter. Similar to the capital expenditure dynamics mentioned earlier, cash consumption will remain elevated due to Neutron development and Neutron tail production as we scale the business beyond the initial test flight and as we procure longer lead items for our SDA programs. Overall, non-GAAP free cash flow, defined as GAAP operating cash flow, less purchases of property, equipment, and capitalized software in the second quarter of 2026 was a use of $110.1 million, compared to a use of $77.4 million in the first quarter. The ending balance of cash equivalents, restricted cash, and marketable securities was roughly $2.4 billion at the end of the second quarter. The sequential increase in liquidity was driven by proceeds from sales of our common stock under our at-the-market equity offering program, which generated $1.08 billion during the quarter before it was subsequently terminated. These funds are intended to support acquisitions such as the recently announced Iridium acquisition, as well as other targets in a robust M&A pipeline, alongside general corporate expenditures and working capital. We exited Q2 in a strong position to execute on both organic and inorganic growth initiatives and to further vertically integrate our supply chain, expand strategic capabilities, and grow our addressable market, consistent with what we have done successfully in the past. Adjusted EBITDA loss for the second quarter of 2026 was $8.8 million, which was well below our guidance range of $20 to $26 million loss. The sequential improvement of $2.9 million in adjusted EBITDA loss was largely driven by higher revenue and strong gross margin. With that, let's turn to our guidance for the third quarter of 2026. We expect revenue in the second quarter to range between $250 and $265 million, representing 10% quarter-over-quarter revenue growth at the midpoint. We anticipate GAAP gross margin to range between 29 to 31%, and non-GAAP gross margin to range between 35 to 37%. These forecasted GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are accounting for a shift in mix within our space systems business, and we expect a beneficial remixing impact on gross margins as we look beyond Q3. We expect third quarter GAAP operating expenses to range between $143 and $149 million, and non-GAAP operating expenses to range between $121 and $127 million. The quarter-over-quarter increases are primarily driven by ongoing Neutron development and spending related to Flight 1, including staff costs, prototyping, and materials. However, we expect to see a shift in spending from R&D to Flight 2 inventory, which is an encouraging sign of progress as we move closer to Neutron's first flight. We expect third quarter net interest income to be $21 million, which is generally a function of higher cash balances. We expect third quarter adjusted EBITDA loss to range between $17 and $23 million, and basic weighted average common shares outstanding to be approximately 641 million shares. Lastly, consistent with prior quarters, we expect negative non-GAAP free cash flow in the third quarter to remain at elevated levels, driven by ongoing investments in Neutron development and scaling production. This excludes any potential offsetting effects from any financing activities in the quarter. In summary, Q2 was another quarter of strong execution. We continue to see exceptional revenue growth across the business, all while maintaining robust liquidity to fund future growth initiatives. We expect this momentum to continue, guiding to strong revenue growth as our satellite platforms business scales exceptionally and Neutron progresses towards first flight. And last but not least, here are some of the upcoming investor events that we'll be attending in the next few months. And with that, we'll hand the call over to the operator for questions.
Thank you. As a reminder, to ask a question, please press star 11 on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. To withdraw your question, please press star 11 again. One moment for questions. Our first question comes from Andre Shepard with Cantor Fitzgerald. You may proceed.
Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. Congratulations on the quarter and all the great progress, and thanks for taking our questions. Maybe one on Neutron and one on Iridium. So on Neutron, it's great to see all the recent progress. I guess I want to maybe move past the first launch and talk about scale. In the past, you've given us some cadence on Neutron first launches, but I guess my question there is, how quickly do we think we could potentially get to 10 launches and additional scale? Is there a possibility to perhaps accelerate the ramp-up process? And then finally, with the space industry still significantly constrained on the launch side, how are you thinking about ASPs going forward? Is there an opportunity perhaps to increase ASPs, both of Neutron and maybe Electron and HASTE as well? Thank you.
Yeah, Andres, good to chat to you. So thanks for the question. So with respect to Neutron, I guess one of the questions that I think people should be asking us is, obviously the first flight is extremely important, but what about Flight 10? Because that's probably in my apart from first flight, the second most important thing, and how quickly we can scale into cadence is absolutely critical. So I think as we are kind of working forward with the vehicle right now, and the way we're thinking about things is it's not just to get to the pad quickly for Flight 1. Of course, we all want that one, that no one more than I. But it's really about how do we get to Flight 10 in the shortest time possible. So for us, that's really all about reusability, and we're constantly trading, the timelines and the qualification criteria for the various systems and subsystems, to get to the pad for Flight 1, but also making sure that when it comes to Flight 10, that we don't have to go back and requalify things. So there's a constant kind of assessment along that way. And I think our ramp that we've sort of explained to everyone is a 135 ramp, and that's been kind of educated from what we did with Electron. But for Neutron, it really is all about reusability, and the more robust we can fall into reusability, then the faster we can scale it. And clearly you've seen the strain in the launch industry right now, and the need not just for new vehicles, but new vehicles at cadence. So I guess that's how we're sort of balancing all those things. And I'll let Adam comment on the ASP.
Yeah, no, look, I think on the ASPs, it's really a function of what's going on in the broader kind of launch market. We brought Neutron to market, with a $50 to $55 million ASP, with a commitment really not to do any significant discounting for early launches, and we've stuck to that. We feel very good though about where the market is from a supply versus demand perspective, and I think right now the view is that we see more upside to ASPs and certainly to anything that we consider down or sideways. So I think we feel good. I think it's left us room to move pricing as demand continues to firm up. And again, I think there's probably more upside in that mix than downside.
Excellent. Thank you both. Really appreciate all that color. And maybe just a quick one on Iridium. So, Peter, you touched on it a little bit in our prepared remarks, but just wondering if you can maybe elaborate a bit further on the overall combined strategy. What new opportunities does Iridium unlock, both through vertical integration and with their 60+ constellation? What new awards and opportunities can you now pursue? And maybe separately, how will you ultimately think about assigning Neutron launches to Iridium's new constellation and new customers? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, obviously, we're very excited about it. I think there's a lot of obvious synergies. I think, I've always been very clear that the large space companies of the future are going to have the ability to launch their own satellites that they've built themselves on their own rocket. I think that's very clearly demonstrated as being superior. So that's obviously really exciting. We've got a lot of areas that we think we can grow that business. If you look at the cost of what it costs Iridium to put up the initial constellation, and we sit here on the back of an envelope and what we could do it for now, it's pretty stark. So and obviously a good way. So we think there's lots of opportunities there. And then no, I think your point is right. We also, as we're thinking about Neutron's capacity, and in this environment where demand is extreme, we need to obviously serve the commercial market. We need to make sure that we have some launches left for our government customer, as we've been onboarded onto the NSSL program. And we also need to make sure we have capacity for ourselves because, ultimately, our intention here will be to improve that constellation. So it's all a bit of a juggling act for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Congrats again on the quarter. Looking forward to Neutron. We'll pass it on.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Jeff Van Rhee with Craig-Hallum Capital Group. You may proceed.
Great, thanks. Thanks for taking the question. So, Peter, on Iridium for a second, just, obviously they come in, they bring some real nice profitability and a presence in the applications market, which you want. They bring slower growth, and I know you've been, pretty impressive with previous acquisitions, particularly on margins, but here you're going to have to really try to re-accelerate or accelerate that top line. Like, what are the lowest hanging fruit, so to speak, in terms of things that you can do over the shorter to intermediate term to accelerate their top line?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, firstly, it's a quintessential Rocket Lab deal in the fact that we're not buying a big hole in our P&L, as you point out, right? So they bring some nice profitability, and the constellation itself is good into 2035. And you also point out correctly that it's a relatively slow growing business. But for us, as we think about some of the initiatives that they've already embarked on to grow, I think we can supercharge those, especially in the area of PNT, and with a relatively modest tweak to a constellation, add a whole bunch more capability. But I also think it puts us in a totally different position from the perspective of some of our government customers. Because, previously we can go along to our government customer and they give us full credit that we can design and build launch vehicles and you jump on a Rocket Lab launch vehicle and you have no concern about getting to orbit. Also, the same goes for building spacecraft. I think, we've demonstrated we can build anything from a low Earth orbit comms bird through to something that goes to Mars. But where it gets a little bit tricky for us is to put our hand in our heart and say, well, we can do a mission critical, life critical constellation and provide services and manage all that. Credibly, before an Iridium acquisition, we couldn't do that. So I think we turn up to a government customer and commercial customers to that sense with just a whole new set of toolkits and capabilities that really sets us out from everybody else, really apart from one other provider in the market. So I think that in itself provides a lot of opportunity. But our focus is rightly so with the acquisition from day one will be growth.
Mm-hmm. Yep, makes sense. One last for me on Ghost. Very interesting. Talk a bit more about that. What infrastructure is needed at the site? It sounds like you bring a lot. There's clearly going to be some things that have to be there. But I'm particularly interested in kind of what business can or will this capture that you couldn't otherwise capture, and really what was the genesis of the idea?
Yeah, it was really a request from a customer. They have very important needs for the HASTE program, and to be able to service those needs, we need to be able to be a little bit more mobile than we are. So it's not a maybe we'll build it and someone will be interested in that capability. We're definitely directed to that capability, and we don't need a lot. That we've built 3 pads for Electron to date, and with the one thing I'll say that with Neutron, that what used to feel like big pieces of steel feels on an Electron scale feels like very small pieces of steel now. So to move launch pad infrastructure around on Electron scale is really quite arbitrary for us at this point.
Yep, fair enough. I'll leave it there. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Trevor Walsh with Citizens. You may proceed.
Great. Hey, Peter and Adam, thanks for taking the questions. Maybe just to follow up or piggyback on the Ghost question, is there a way we should think about the price per launch or the revenue per launch, and then maybe the cost structure around those now Ghost-enabled launches as compared to an Electron launch or even a HASTE launch? I think HASTE you were able to charge more. So just curious if as you do more of these Ghost capability launches, if that's going to kind of change the financial profile a little bit of those.
Yeah, look, I think obviously these are HASTE missions. They're just happening out of the West Coast. So I think you should look at pricing to be pretty consistent with what we've been showing on HASTE. I think overall, again, as this type of mission becomes more strategic and important, particularly if certain elements of Golden Dome continue to proliferate the way many think that they will, there'll be more demand for these types of things. So it feels like we could be in the early phases of HASTE demand. I think certainly we've seen great demand and great backlog build in the last few quarters. But as that continues, again, we think we're in a very enviable spot with regard to unique capabilities to deliver these kind of missions for the government customer. And we also think there's international opportunities as well. So, if HASTE kind of behaves like other parts of the Electron portfolio where ASPs have gone up pretty significantly over the years, we could be looking at the same kind of opportunity for HASTE across both our Virginia pad, the new pads in Alaska, and then of course, even opportunities from New Zealand.
Great. Thanks. Perfect, Adam. And then maybe one quick follow-up, semi-related. For the new Kodiak site, is there going to be a step up in CapEx kind of associated with that that's maybe not already accounted for? How should we think about that in terms of the comments that you've made around CapEx kind of for the balance of the year? Thanks.
Yeah, no, there's some CapEx required for that. But again, as Pete was mentioning, in the context of what we've been dealing with Neutron, it's relatively in the noise. And the contracts that we engage with have some CapEx funding in them. So yes, they'll show up in a CapEx increase, but they're funded under that agreement to a large part.
Got it. Great. Thanks both. Appreciate the questions.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Edison Yu with Deutsche Bank. You may proceed.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for taking our questions. Want to come back on Iridium, and I'm curious. I know you mentioned it technically it can run till mid 2030s, but how are you thinking about the timing and sort of the potential synergies you might have with the next gen constellation, and then obviously the landscape is going to change a lot by 2035. So is the idea to actually deploy the next gen constellation sooner?
Yeah, hey Edison. So you're right in the fact that the landscape for direct to mobile and to services from internet from space is going to change a lot. But one of the really nice things that we liked about the Iridium kind of business model is these are L-band, so rain and weather penetrating, indoors penetrating spectrum, because not all spectrum is the same as I'm sure you're aware, and just the safety critical and stickiness of the current applications. So I guess I'm less concerned about, I'm happy to let the larger players fight over, some of those, internet from space type markets. Meanwhile, we think what Iridium has in particular with the L-band spectrum is very important today, but actually going to be more important in the future. So I guess the landscape for me doesn't look vastly different. And I think it's also too early to pontificate about a new constellation. Now, clearly, the whole point of this is that we are a self-launching machine now, so there will be a constellation, but I don't think we're ready to talk about exactly what that's going to be right just this early.
Understood. Separate topic. You obviously won several pretty big satellite awards. You have Flatellite, you have the Geo award. Maybe it's for Adam. Any sense on the timing of the ramp of these contracts? Are these fairly linear, or are these going to be a bit more lumpy? Thank you.
I think our contracts, again, on the government side are pretty typical. I mean, these programs are ones that last for, call it 4 years, and the kind of 10, 40, 40, 10 kind of curve is still looking to be approximately right. Each program is a little bit different, but I think that's a good way to model it going forward.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Jan Engelbrecht with Baird. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Peter and Adam. Congrats on another set of great results. I think I'll start with the spacecraft component supply chain as a whole. Just obviously, you guys benefit internally just given your vertical integration, but as other companies and customers of yours start to try and ramp up their satellite constellations, and you just look at some of these components, reaction wheels, laser terminals, solar panels, thrusters, where do you guys sort of see the biggest opportunity across those components, and what's the capacity like looking at your factories today versus over the next couple of years as launch cadence picks up and as more satellites go into orbit? Thank you.
Thanks for the question, because I think people think of launch as a big moat, and launch is a really, really big moat. But equally well, spacecraft components is a big moat, because if you just turn up in the industry and say, I want 1,000 reaction wheels, then your chances of getting them are almost zero. And unless you come to perhaps us. So I think we've built a decent sense of scale within all of the components businesses. But I very much look at it as a moat, and I think probably when some of the analysts that have been on with us here for a long time, when we first announced like an old solar company in Albuquerque, you were thinking, what on earth is Pete on? But you can see now that we've scaled that to being the largest space grade solar manufacturer in the world, and every single satellite needs solar and tremendous amounts of it. So I think the components element continues to grow year after year, and as more constellations and more spacecraft come into production, that only continues to grow for us.
Yeah, and I would add to that being a components provider on a merchant level is interesting. It's a growing business for us. Most of those products have very nice margins associated with them. It's more strategic than that for us, because really what we do is we're looking to, as you look at the strong backlog growth that we had on the program side of things, that's really enabled to a large part because we're able to eliminate margin stacking and just be that much more competitive in going after these large strategic programs. So, the ability to basically take advantage of its scale as a merchant provider and then further use that internally to be more competitive on these large, bigger programs, as you've seen us be successful in closing on. That's really kind of where the magic all comes together. It's more than just kind of playing in a healthy merchant component market. It's really about kind of feeding and enabling this much more strategic capability building part of our platforms business.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Adam. And a quick follow-up, if I may, just returning to the HASTE contract, the $266 million contract. Are you guys sort of going to break out the cost between sort of launch and, actually building the pad? Because I think if you just look at the 18 launches, then it implies sort of a $50 million sort of ASP, which I don't think is potentially correct. Maybe there's some launch infrastructure that's being funded as part of the contract, but maybe just on HASTE as a whole, on ASPs, and then just sort of what's the negotiations looking with commercial customers? Because I think in May you guys booked your first contract with Anduril, but what's sort of the follow on? What's that look like on HASTE for commercial customers specifically? Thank you.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. There is a bunch of stuff that's mixed into the overall $266 million contract value. I mentioned earlier, I think when the question was asked, there is some funding in there for infrastructure. So, I mean, obviously, these launches will come through, when we recognize the revenue based on, the standalone price for those launches. There'll be separate revenue with regards to continuing operations and so forth. And of course, the infrastructure build out will show up in incremental CapEx spend and then depreciation and amortization. So I would say overall, nothing that you see in that contract will change the way that the margin profile of that HASTE business, which is actually coming along quite nicely if you look in the overall scheme of kind of Electron and HASTE. So yeah, I don't see any difference there. And on the commercial side of HASTE, maybe Pete, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, no, certainly seeing more interest. And as some of these large defense programs come to fruition, HASTE has really proven itself as the go-to solution there. So yeah, plenty of interest and conversations and stuff going on there.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Eric Rasmussen with Stifel. You may proceed.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe my first on Iridium. I know it's still early days. You outlined a few target markets. Initially, they're looking to go after the narrowband IoT services. But at what point, or would there be an opportunity maybe to look at the broadband layer? And if so, what would that entail if that's a road that you wanted to go down?
Yeah, Eric. I mean, it's the wrong kind of spectrum for a broadband. I mean, the L-band spectrum has very unique advantages to it than some of the more broadband spectrum. And I've learned to never say never, but I think the two most wealthiest people in the world are going after that, and that's quite a challenge to go and compete. But we see value in other places, where you could have the most amount of S-band spectrum you want and the most amount of satellites you want. But if you don't have an L-band spectrum, there's going to be certain things that you just can't do.
Gotcha. Okay. And then maybe just, Adam, you talked about Mynaric gross margins being pressured initially. Where are the margins today in that business, and what's the target margin profile, and when do you think you might get to that framework, that time frame to get to that target profile?
Yeah, look, I think the gross margins for Mynaric coming out of the gate, they're always going to be a little bit lower. I mean, I think that as people know, that asset had some challenges, had some supply chain issues, went through an insolvency process, and so we're in the process of building that back up. I would say that if you think about where, I can't really comment because it's been less than really a quarter that we've owned the business, so I don't want to go into too many details on where gross margins are falling out. We're still doing some work there, but going forward, we think this business, will really kind of look in line with the rest of our space systems kind of merchant business. May take us a few quarters to get there. I think you may recall, because you've been along on this journey for quite some time. When we acquired Celero, the margins were quite challenged, called high single digits, and we were able to get that in line with our overall target for the business. This won't take nearly that long. This is one where we've been able to take relatively decisive action on understanding what needs to be done to get the margins up. We're also facing increased volumes in that business over the next several quarters. So we have a combination of revenue growth and some cost efficiencies that are really going to get the business into fighting shape relatively quickly.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Alex Potter with Piper Sandler. You may proceed.
Hi there. This is Ben Johnson online for Alex Potter. I guess first question is, can you guys just kind of walk through the big milestones that you view as the highest risk to getting Neutron to the pad in 4Q?
Yeah, hey Ben. Probably the stage testing is always the thing that gets your adrenaline running, because you have fully fueled vehicles on the pad, and you're igniting the engines for the first time, and I think you can also see for another space company that when that doesn't go well, it really doesn't go well. So I think that's always the last big milestone before flight. And then, depending on how much granular detail you want to go into, then there's a ever decreasing series of kind of important milestones. But once you see some stuff rolling outside that looks completely finished and doing tests, I think those are good pointers.
Great, thank you. And then my second question is on, so you previously talked about the benefits of establishing a footprint in Europe with the Mynaric deal. What are some of the initial green shoots you've seen? Can you elaborate on the interest you've seen from customers in Europe? And is that primarily on the satellite or launch side?
Yeah, Europe is a really interesting market. It's typically been extremely kind of sheltered. But with the kind of the recent geopolitical tensions, all of the European nations are looking for sovereignty. And a good example more recently is Germany had put over $40 billion in place for a satellite missile warning system, along with other things. And typically that would have been outsourced to other nations. So even in that alone, that's an area that Rocket Lab has tremendous experience in now and capability. So the challenge, of course, being that Europe generally hasn't got a lot of these capabilities, so they sort of need a lot of help to get there. And then on launch itself, we'll see, but clearly Europe really only has a couple of launch vehicles that are launching relatively infrequently. And if you're trying to build whole constellations of systems, then you might need some help with launches also.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Kristine Liwag with Morgan Stanley. You may proceed.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to follow up on free cash flow. Can you provide more color on the higher expected cash burn in the quarter? How much of this was driven by higher than expected Neutron development costs versus acceleration of inventory to support future launches?
Yeah, well, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head, Christine. So, a significant amount of the spend, or cash flow consumption in the quarter was driven by building out these subsequent tails for Neutron, right? So, as you can imagine, and Pete talked earlier about the importance of getting to rate quickly. And so, for the parts of the rocket that we think are at low risk to needing some kind of a change as a result of the result of the first test launch later this year, hopefully. That really is kind of informing what we're building ahead on. And then I would say also the Mynaric acquisition, I mentioned earlier, it had some, supply chain challenges and so forth. And so we basically had to replenish that supply chain. And that was part of the step up in the quarter as well. But we think we have that well in hand now. So that should be in a much more normal place. So it's really a combination of the Neutron tail build out plus getting Mynaric kind of tucked back into shape and firing on all cylinders.
Great. And just following up on Neutron then, with the order that you're able to receive, with the ASP that you are targeting, does this mean that we should expect more acceleration of Neutron orders, especially as you get closer to the test flight? And also, and I just wanted to follow up on my free cash flow question earlier. How should we think about the cadence of free cash flow through the rest of the year? And when, is 2Q the peak in free cash outflow?
Yeah, I'll let Pete talk to the Neutron question.
Yeah, hi, Christine. I would say with Neutron, we are being very strategic and very thoughtful about our sales there. We have, as we've discussed, we have a 1-3-5 cadence. Hopefully, we'll do a lot better than that. But we have commercial customers already signed. We have government customers. You saw NSSL nearly tripling their budget for NSSL launch. So we need to make sure that we've got capacity for that customer. And as I talked before, we've got our own aspirations and needs. So, I've personally never seen launch so constrained in pretty much ever. Other launch providers are backing off and focusing on their own needs as well. So the amount of launch that's left in the industry is really, really tight. So for us, it's being very thoughtful about which customers we sign up to at this point on going forward.
And then coming back to the free cash flow question, it's still very much a function of the timing of the first successful test launch of Neutron, right? We've been pretty consistent in pointing towards, that will be the real turning point where we go to adjusted EBITDA positivity in the quarter after that event happens. But then we've also been pretty clear that, it's going to probably be 18 to 24 months after that pivot that we get to cash flow positivity, because we'll have to continue to invest in a fleet of tails to build out for Neutron. So I think that's really, I'd say those are kind of the two most driving factors. Now, of course, pending the closing of the Iridium acquisition, the table gets reset pretty significantly, right? So as we've talked about, that business generates pretty significant free cash flow. So I think, we'll have a lot of things to update folks on once we get closer to the timing of closing that deal. But on a standalone kind of Rocket Lab basis, it really is driven by the Neutron test timing.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Ryan Koontz with Needham & Company. You may proceed.
Great, thanks. Question for you, Adam, on space systems in terms of any kind of color on product mix you have for us there in the June quarter, as well as kind of how we think about tranche 2 and tranche 3 timing in the second half, and then maybe reflect on the gross margin mix apart from Mynaric. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff. So, mix is always difficult to kind of predict too far in advance. We have, turns businesses, plus we have these programmatic, satellite platform businesses. I would say that, there was a little bit less of the more mature merchant products within the mix in kind of, I would say a little bit in Q2 and actually pointing towards some of the weakness in margin in Q3. We have a pretty wide range of margins in our space systems business. We have, some component solutions, such as solar, that are always going to be more towards the lower end, call that in the, kind of the 30s. And then if you look towards some of the product areas, they can be more kind of north of 70 points of gross margin. So they're pretty big spread there within the portfolio. And then again, towards the lower end in the mix, but greater in the magnitude of the composition is really the satellite platforms business. And you mentioned, the biggest pieces of our backlog today are for SDA Tranche 2 and Tranche 3. And again, those are more in the mid 30s, right? So I think right now each quarter is going to be driven really by kind of the mix of how much of that higher end component portfolio ships versus how much we have in these programmatic programs, which, those are relatively straightforward to model. But what you can't model as much as, again, is the components part of the business.
Really helpful, Adam. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Gautam Khanna with TD Securities. You may proceed.
Yes. Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my question. I was curious, on the demand side for Neutron, do you still expect kind of a surge of orders once the first test flight goes successfully? And I was curious, also, just given your large competitor is, launching a much larger vehicle, does that give you any concern on industry capacity maybe 3 or 4 years from now and the demand for Neutron? If you could just comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much. It's a good question. So I think pre-test flight, post-test flight, I would say that Neutron demand is just not a concern. Now, naturally, I think everybody will be more comfortable with buying Neutrons post-test flight, but we've had absolutely zero issues in selling, full price Neutrons pre-test flight. So I don't see that making a huge difference. Now, with respect to launch capacity going forward, I don't want to sound too negative here, but I don't see that changing anytime soon either, because even as new capacity comes on on market from some competitors, you know, a lot of that capacity is already spoken for their own internal programs, whether it be internets or, you know, AI data centers or whatever. Like it's, you know, a fair chunk of that capacity is already spoken for. So, you know, I see this constrained, you know, launch market persisting for quite some time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Andre Madrid with BTIG. You may proceed.
Hey, thanks for taking the question. This is Ned Morgan on for Andre. I was just wondering, could we get an update on the Mars Telecommunications Orbiter program? You know, just wondering how well you guys are positioned to win there and how we should think about timing and contribution.
Yeah, thanks, Ned. I'd like an update too. So we're waiting for you know, for NASA to go through their procurement process. So you know, hopefully, you know, it'd be great to hear this month or thereabouts. But I think we're positioned well. You know, there's very few folks that can demonstrate the level of capability and experience that we have. So we feel strongly positioned. But yeah, we just have to unfortunately wait for NASA to work through their procurement process.
Got it. Thank you. And a follow-up, you know, after the successful launch of Neutron, how soon should we expect to see the NSSL task orders come through? I saw the upsized contract.
Yeah, that's sort of out of our control as well. You know, I would say that you've seen them add a whole bunch more, you know, resources into that contract vehicle. So they have sort of set periods where they release those contracts. But I think, you know, the government, along with others, are hotly anticipating Neutron's arrival for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Michael Schock with KeyBanc Capital Markets. You may proceed.
Hey, good afternoon. I wanted to ask maybe bigger picture. Are you in conversation with customers about potential orbital data center opportunities? You know, whether that's as a merchant supplier or something else. I know higher efficiency solar panels are an important part of generating enough power for some of these plans that are out there, and you have that capacity already. Is data centers in space a real opportunity for Rocket Lab, or is it too early to tell?
No, I think it's a real opportunity. I guess I'm still a little bit cautious on the scale in which they may be a thing. You know, you've certainly seen us release new solar cells that are specifically targeted to that kind of application. So we're taking the opportunity seriously, and you know, there's obviously there's a lot of folks that are looking at that fairly deeply. So I think, you know, if they turn out to be a real thing, I think we'll be pretty deeply entrenched and you know, well positioned to capitalize it. Is Rocket Lab going out and going to build a whole lot of orbital data centers? Well, I think not yet, that's for sure.
Okay, great. And then just on M&A, do you still expect to be pretty active there going forward post Iridium? And if so, are there any specific parts of the business you're targeting? Is that still space systems primarily, or any updated thoughts on the M&A pipeline? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's likely that you'll see some tuck-ins from us. I think as you know, the right things come along, we'll always be active. But I would encourage everybody to think of Iridium as not the end point from our applications play. I think it's really the starting point. We don't want to be known as like the you know, the L-band tricky communications company. Our intentions are much more grander than that. But what it does do is it shows an ability for us to go and you know, bite off a big piece and also use, you know, in time we'll be able to demonstrate using the full machine where we can build our own satellites and launch them and be a, you know, self-licking ice cream. So I think yeah, people should not assume that Iridium is a one and done.
Great, thanks so much.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Suji DeSilva with Roth Capital. You may proceed.
Hi, Pete. Hi, Adam. Congrats on the progress. Sorry to bring it back. We're nice here. Just, you know, Adam, at this point, or Pete, the Electron order customer base is very, very comfortable ordering. I'm wondering when in the 135 Neutron sequence do you think customers get to that? I mean, I don't know if it's just with the first launch, but I think you clearly have customers that are ahead of that and pre-ordering. But when in the sequence does it start to feel more normal in terms of ordering and comfort? In your opinion?
Hey, Suji. It almost feels like that now, to be honest with you. As I mentioned before, we have a very limited supply of neutrons coming out the gate, and we have to be very, very careful with where we put those. So I think the demand for the vehicle is already very high. So I don't know, they might feel differently, but it doesn't feel like we're a million miles away from there already.
No, actually, I'm actually pleasantly surprised kind of where we are in the cycle right now. I mean, to have the kind of backlog that we have on Neutron for a vehicle that's not flown yet, I think that shows a pretty strong endorsement. It's certainly, I think the market is saying it's from the customer perspective is not saying if, it's more when. And I think Pete's been pretty clear. I think through the communications today and earlier that a significant portion of Neutron down the road is going to be used to service our own demand, right? So I think we also are being very mindful that we don't want to sell all of the capacity out for many, many years forward, kind of without taking into consideration what we need to do, not only for Iridium's needs, but as Pete said, this is the first step of many for us in the applications vein. So we need to make sure that we're really leveraging Neutron to its greatest strategic extent, which it's going to be a great vehicle for the market. It's going to be great for adding more capacity in a capacity constrained market. But this is going to be an incredible strategic enabler for us, and so we want to make sure we don't squander that opportunity and give too much of that capacity away too early to other people.
Got it. Great. No, it makes sense. Customers have confidence in your execution given your history there. And then the other question, Pete, is on Flatellite. I'm just curious, can you remind us the unique features of Flatellite and congrats on that government win. Is opportunities there outside of government commercial, or just how to think about Flatellite as a market opportunity for you?
Oh, thanks, Sujit, for asking that question, because that's actually, I mean, this last quarter, I think there's two kind of really big takeaways. One, we now also build geo satellites, and I know that the geo market is not particularly an exciting market compared to what it used to be, but actually it's a very, very unique capability. So to be able to build low Earth orbit satellites, Mars satellites, geo satellites, and then have our first Flatellite order, I think shows a real breadth of skill and ability and capability. But the Flatellite is designed as a high cadence, large number of satellites per launch vehicle constellation builder. And I'm just so thrilled that their first customer for that is actually a really important US government program. It really speaks to the confidence that the customer has after doing the due diligence of everybody in that Flatellite product. And that Flatellite product, once we start building them for that customer, that is a huge advantage for commercial customers as well who want that kind of thing. But candidly for us as well. I mean, most of the stuff that I see in the future that Rocket Lab will do for itself will be built on the back of a Flatellite platform.
Excellent. That's helpful, Pete. Thanks.
Thank you. And this concludes the conference. Thank you for your participation. You may now disconnect.
Was that it?
Yeah, that was the end.
Not even a goodbye. See you guys next. Okay, I just. Cool. I think this was one of the shortest calls.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think?
I mean, I
Can you kill the music in the background?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Sorry.
If I can. Yeah, I mean, I like pretty much everything. I still think Neutron is launching 2027. And other than that, I'm very happy with for example, when they asked him about Iridium, and he specifically said that we don't want to be known as the weird L spectrum company, and it's really just the beginning. And don't think of us as the as the Iridium space application company. So I really like that. Also, when he said that the space, like producing the satellites and having all the space components is actually a moat for them. I actually didn't think about that way, so that was kind of new. And overall, I'm very happy with the call. It's as good as it can be.
Did you guys catch anything about the ATM? Because I'm kind of scratching my head trying to like parse through the series of ATMs that we've seen over the past like year. I think there've been 3, maybe 4. Adam mentioned that the ATM, and he doesn't say which ATM, generated $1.08 billion during the quarter before it was subsequently terminated. And I'm looking through the 10Q, and it looks like that was the where did it say? I'm pretty sure that was the March ATM. So that's not the most recent one, right? That he was talking about there.
No,
did you guys catch anything on that?
That one would have been $5 billion, and they announced it after earning. It was like late May.
Yeah, I think that one would have been the one prior to the most recent one. The most recent one came out on the heels of the Iridium announcement.
Okay, so he must have been talking about one of the older ones being terminated then, right?
Yeah. That's what I took.
Yeah, when they start the new ones, they close off the other ones, so they don't have like multiple ATMs open at the same time.
Okay.
At least that's how they've done it every other time. I assumed with this one. But I mean, only other thing is they had 2.2 billion in cash on hand. There's the only thing I think I saw in the presentation, or 2.4 billion cash equivalents. So, I mean, sure, it's in the 10Q. I just haven't gone through the numbers to see how much is left. But it does seem like there's it seems like there's a significant amount of that left.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the cash would be higher right now. But
yeah, I'm trying to read through it. It's like because of how many ATMs there are. There's like several paragraphs. I'm trying to listen to the call, and like, I'm gonna have to read this later.
It says occurred. Oh, that's cost.
So Vince, I'll ask you because we'll pick on you if anyone. How are you feeling about Neutron this year? Do you think it's happening? I'll let you take the heat.
I don't think it's happening this year, guys. But I don't think it's such a big deal. And I actually really like that he said that it's like, okay, you have the first launch and you have the 10th launch, and like, which one would you rather first get to? Like, would you rather first get to the first launch and then delay the 10th launch, or do you want to see the 10th launch like earlier? And yeah, I'm in the camp. I want to see the 10th launch earlier. So I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because what he said with that was that they're constantly trading timelines with the emphasis on reusability, right? Like, it might take a little bit longer right now while we figure out how to do things better. But I also like that he said that hopefully they'll do better than the original projected ramp of 1, 3, and 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that it's taking a little bit longer, but the ramp up is going to be faster. But yeah, I think it is a little bit disappointing for the Neutron launch. I think Vince's read is on point. I think integrating all these different pieces. I mean, I was looking at it, and what are we, like 70% hardware complete, maybe? And that doesn't capture like the pad testing and wet dress rehearsals, static fires of the full stack, all that FAA licenses for the first launch. So yeah, I am definitely in the camp right now of not launching in Q4, but to the pad, which is the language I think they used across the entire presentation. I also like that he said they've increased their employee headcount by 439 in this quarter. That's substantial. I mean, that's a huge growth in terms of folks they're bringing on board.
I think most of that would be Mynaric, though, right? Because that closed in the quarter.
Did Mynaric?
So that would have been. I mean, they were like 300 employees or 400 employees, right? Because that closed during Q2.
I don't remember how many employees they had. I didn't think it was that.
I'm pretty sure it was 4. I thought it was closer to 400. I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
So I can bring that up really quick.
400.
What's the question you're asking about the headcount? I have it in front of me.
Mynaric have.
Oh, my
Should I share a screen?
Team of 300 plus
Mm.
was what was expected.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we added a little 100, 140, 150 of regular folks.
And Motive also would have closed too. So I mean, some
That
of
one
that's
was
would
smaller. I
have
think
been
it
Motive.
had like 20 people.
Yeah, but just a little extra there, you know.
Yeah. So that might have been a combination of mostly both of the acquisitions. You're right. Okay.
I realized something, guys. There's all these testing phases, like the qualifications testing and then acceptance testing. And I think they reached into the patience testing. Like they're testing our patients now with Neutron. That's where the program is. Yeah.
Before we move away from headcount, it's also worth underlining. If you look at the revenue per headcount, Rocket Lab actually hit a record of that this past quarter, just barely squeezed past Q1 2026, but I think that's worth underlining as well. Record revenue per headcount this quarter.
What's the revenue per headcount? Just curious.
Just the total revenue in the quarter divided by the total employees.
Yeah, but
so 72.8 thousand.
Yeah, nice.
Mm-hmm. It's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the numbers are great. I think they continue to execute. If we're gonna poo-poo the whole call just because we're disappointed about Neutron launch, I understand the general sentiment, but in terms of their numbers look excellent. I think revenue 62% year over year, gross profit 36% gross margins, great backlog. So the numbers look great. A couple other things that I really like to hear. I think Adam spoke a little bit about the Kodiak site and whether or not that was going to increase CapEx. And I think he confirmed what a lot of us were thinking is that some of that is funded by the agreement, as we noted that those each electron seemed to be substantially more than regular HASTE launches. So we were kind of thinking along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I thought was interesting, which I think I'm not a numbers person, so Scott, this is probably more along your lines. Adam said that based on Rocket Lab numbers alone, that once they become EBITDA positive, you can anticipate them moving into profitability within 18 to 24 months. I thought that was a little extended. He said obviously that didn't account for the
free cash flow. It wasn't profitability; it was free cash flow positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, just there's
that's what I understood as well.
Okay,
like adjusted EBITDA positive versus like the free cash flow positive. But sorry.
Yeah, no, that's why I wanted to Scott or you to chime in on that a little bit to help me understand that a little bit better, because it sounded a little bit extended.
Yeah, so probably we'll call it 2028, 2029 free cash flow positivity at this point. I think that's kind of where Adam is alluding to, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Maybe 2030 if there's any sort of slowdown or whatnot, but yeah.
Without accounting for what Iridium's going to bring, right?
Because I think he went on to mention that profile is going to change, or that profile could change with Iridium, which probably will. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he said it would reset after that, and he said you're going to have to update you guys on a lot of stuff. But he said just the Rocket Lab side, it was 18 to 24 months for free cash flow positivity based on what they knew today. But clearly stuff ramps. I don't know if they knew 18 to 24 months ago that they were going to, have the Alaska pad and everything else coming up online. So it's growing. Did you mention that he used the quote there was the first analyst question was really good, basically asking how can you ramp faster, and then but later on Peter was more direct when he said we already kind of noted the 135 cadence, and hopefully they'll do it a lot faster than that.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know that that's their internal goals to do it quicker. They're stating in the 135, and hopefully they'll beat that. So
yeah, that's encouraging. And also when he said about Flatellite at the end, that most of the stuff that Rocket Lab will do for itself in the future will be built on the back of Flatellite. So I think that there's a lot more still to come. I think it was a good call. I think the numbers are really good. Like I said, I understand the Neutron sentiment. I'm in the same camp.
Welcome to the Rocket Lab Corporation Q2 earnings
I thought it was good. Are you replaying it?
Participants are in a listen-only mode.
Vince is replaying it, or somebody. Oh yeah.
So
the two things that he gave away that were pretty good were I thought MTO was going to be September for sure towards the end of it, but he kind of sounded like the announcement would be this month, which would be
I saw that.
And that's huge. That'll be a massive contract. it'll be at least 500 million plus. But I don't want to say it's a 750 like the exact amount was in the law. It'll be.
You think it'll be that much?
It'll be between 500 and 700 million, I think.
Because I know historically you have said that the real value in having these NASA projects in-house is obviously for recruitment and for having the meatball on the side of your launch vehicle. And your
only because of what's been, it was stated in the law, and it was funded at 750 million for the program, so they can't take 250 million out of it and then go use it somewhere else. They have to use it for the MTO program. They could, a little bit of that cost is going to be the overhead on NASA's side, so that's what I'm saying. It might be like a 700 or 600 million one, but I would think way north of 500.
That's
exciting. And then so that was news. And then he also talked about like they kept saying like, I don't know, I can't, because I don't know of another one that makes sense yet. Equatus or something like that. It seems like it's still like up in the air. I know a lot of people were all poo-pooing on Viasat after their call. But Space 42 CEO and Viasat both said that their executive teams are spending around 30% of their time on that project. So, and then the way that they basically went like, I got to look back at the exact wording Adam was starting to use, because he started to say something, and he didn't like give away that piece of it, but he said not only for our own internal programs, we've talked about launch, but for other things coming up too. I still think something like that is not that far away. Like an Equatus type of announcement.
You think not just the bus provider, then at that point also a launch provider?
Or potentially, yeah. I mean, especially if they're using Flatellite, it would make a lot of sense for that.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was hoping somebody was going to ask about Gauss and just ask when they were going to get some orders for that, or what the ramp for that was going to look like for contributions. Because I still think that if they have a 200 production line per year, let's see, even half of it was internal, but half of those a year, I mean, that's got to be like $50 million revenue stream a year even if it was 200K a unit or something like that. So I don't know. I feel like I wanted to hear more from Gal, like what were like the sales on Gals, but maybe it's quick for that.
Yeah. He's also very short on Ghost, right? He said, well, we developed it because a customer requested it. Like, so one of the analysts asked about the origin of the thought process for Ghost. And then they didn't really go too much further into it. I guess they can't, but I was interested in hearing a little bit more about what
like how many containers is it, how long does it take to set up, and then he didn't really go say like, does it have to already have facilities on site? He's like, analysts asked like 3 things at once, and so I feel like it got lost. But good stuff for you guys for follow-up.
Yeah, I haven't heard back, so I don't know what their schedules look like, but I'm always checking my emails. Let's see. Nothing yet.
Okay, cool. And what do you guys think about the stock reaction? Currently, it's down about 6.81%. You think it's deserved, or are you guys adding more, or?
I'm not too surprised, but I'm also like not putting too much weight into the after hours stuff. I'm more curious what it's going to do tomorrow and over the rest of the week, I guess. Yeah. What do you guys think?
Same. I usually don't give much attention to it. The after hour move. I mean, last time it was basically flat after hours, and then the next day it went up 25% or something like that. So like, I don't know. I'm not like saying like, oh, it's for sure going to drop tomorrow. Nothing I saw really makes me think that. So there is a tiny little gap from last Monday to Tuesday between 70 and 71. And so I was like, ooh, because we didn't fill that all weekend. I was like, oh, I hope that doesn't come back and bite us later. But that's just like a technical thing. I don't know that that's going to happen. But
yeah, it's fine. Like I said, the numbers were really good. Everything continues to move in the right direction. I didn't consider anything amiss. So I think, like you said, after hours is kind of choppy. We'll find out tomorrow morning which way it moves. Will I add? Yeah, I think I heard some definitely new execution on it, and that's part of my triggers, right? They execute or they drop below 10%. I add, so I'll be adding a little bit tomorrow to see which direction it moves in.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you guys want to say about the earnings call? It's quite late for me here. So
no, yeah, solid call. I'd say no real complaints, but I mean, yeah, there's the Neutron delay, but at the same time, like I don't think anybody here surprised. I don't think anybody should be surprised. You know, realistically, it's maybe a quarter or two pushed back, but in 5 years, we're not going to care.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on with the show.
I was actually just thinking like the revenue, because like let's say if Neutron would have flown in 2024 like it was originally planned, then it would have been like 3 in 2025, and then we would be at 5 this year. And then I'm like, oh my god, that is like getting pushed out. But yeah, I also think like in a few years we're not gonna care, and the company is doing amazing, and we're not just a Neutron company. Like we have the space systems, we're space applications now, so it's just a small part of the business, and yeah, it's gonna be fine.
It's a decent part of the business. I think especially with all the launch constraint that everybody keeps talking about, including Peter. He's never seen it so constrained before. So I think there's a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation, and rightfully so. And like you said, he doesn't lose any sleep over demand for Neutron. It's just a matter of getting it ready, and I think he wants to make sure that we get it just right and are able to ramp up a little bit faster. So yeah, no, good numbers, good quarter. I'm good with it. People in the chat are asking about the 100 launch party, whether it's going to be Neutron or Electron. I guess it's likely going to be Electron now. So
I was going to say, unless they got Neutron off next quarter, I sure hope it's going to be 11.
Yeah, right.
100 Electron. Yeah.
Maybe this earnings was just a huge sandbag to surprise us. Like, just kidding, guys. The 100 launch is Neutron. No, I don't know.
I don't think so. I think the one thing that you can always count on with this team is transparency, and they're not gonna give us false hope. I think all the language is very realistic and sobering, so I appreciate that.
I echo that too. Like I think a lot of companies, like just reading through the chat, somebody saying like, because I think they said something to the tune of like, we're not gonna say with certainty yet, and that was being interpreted as like, see, they don't even know what they're talking about. But it's like, frankly, I'd rather have that. I have a lot more respect by someone who's like, yeah, we'll try to do this, but let's be realistic about this, rather than just being like, oh, we're going to do this and it's going to be perfect and flawless and it's going to up and to the right forever. I appreciate Rocket Lab's, not just Peter, not just Adam, but the entire Rocket Lab team for being realistic rather than,
they're not going to hit 100. They're not going to hit $1 trillion in revenue in 2030, and maybe even 29. And they're going to be launching, twice a day by the end of 27, or twice a week, or whatever. You mean that's not going to happen? I can't anymore. If my CEO is not going to blow smoke up my ass, I don't want to.
And data centers.
I love Elon, by the way, but we all know Elon is very aggressive with his stuff. They're just pointless to me. They're just unreliable. His timelines are unreliable.
That's true.
So I'm glad that our CEO's timelines are at least for the most part reliable. Yes, Neutron is one glaring. Everyone wants to point at the one thing he's been perfect on, but everything else in the business, it's like, I don't know. They keep delivering.
It's better than expected. Everything else. So yeah.
Sorry, Scott, I cut you off in your middle of that.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm just saying I just prefer realism more than like overstepped optimism. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it would be very interesting to see, because they must be running into something that they like. Granted, they have never done Neutron before, and it's very hard to predict something that you have never done before. And for them to be 2 years late and then some, that they must have been running into something that they didn't see before. And I really hope it will serve us well in the end. That's all I can hope for. I would love to be a fly on the wall in the engineering meetings to see like, what is it that they're running into that is causing this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've kind of went over some of that stuff before. I mean, some of it was third-party stuff. Some of it to try to, be faster early on. Hindsight 2020, that was probably a bad idea for the tank. They've also said stuff like, just moving the engine across the thing. You can just pick up one of the Rutherford engines and move it. You got to get a team to lift, and these things are massive. So there's just physical challenges of working with these larger components and everything. And for better or worse, we don't have a production line with everything from the engines to the structures to the testing. It's not all in one location, so we got to transport stuff around as well. We don't have infinite capital to build Starship factories, so it's once they get everything rolling, I mean, they already said next quarter, this quarter, next quarter, it's already the capex, or not capex, the cost, whatever, the money is starting to already go into tail 2, they're not building, it's not like the
not R&D, like
cost,
it's
OpEx, thank you. So so they're the next one's coming. So and then after that, hearing that they're at the end stage of the engines, that's great. That means the 9 that they're gonna 10 that they're gonna do, or they're working on those now, and to as in there's no more redesigns. They're on the final qual. So that's good to hear. I mean, once that's done, they say they're popping out an engine a week or something like that, or every 6 days they could. Or am I misremembering that completely?
No, that sounds right.
Something like that, yeah. So then the engine's out, and that'll be another thing is slow, And then at that point, once they've gotten, as soon as all those structures that are sitting over there at Middle River go out the door, it's tail 2 is getting built, and so 6 months from now, think about it. They just redid the first stage tanks, the interstage, everything else like that, in we'll call it about a 6-month jump to get where it's at, and that would be the first time through it. So by the time that the first launch happens, tail 2 is going to be right behind it. Obviously, they're probably not going to do everything until they have to, in case they need to tweak something. But I don't know. I'm not worried. It's going to ramp.
One quick question for you guys, Mrs. Iglesias. I'll ask you. I think it was 2 weeks ago I went on this whole rabbit hole about Kodiak, and then it kind of led into a conversation about the Australian subsidiary of Rocket Lab. Do you think they've kind of put that maybe to rest entirely, given that we're now looking at Germany? Like, if you could compare what Australia's infrastructure could become versus like what Germany sounds like it's going to become, do you think that they just set up a neutron pad there instead of Australia now?
I don't know. We haven't heard anything else from Australia in some time. And I remember when they set up the subsidiary, I was also excited about that as being, one of the Five Eyes. And I think a lot of the talk came shortly after the announcement that they were working with one of their hypersonic companies. Do you guys remember the name of that company?
Oh, they make Dart AE. Is it just called Hypersonics?
I think it is.
Just with an X. Yeah.
So I thought that was going to be a big market for HASTE out in Australia. But I also know that Australia they have their own commercial launcher now that has been making some inroads. So I don't know if Australia is moving in the direction of trying to just kind of navigate their own space sector and create demand for their own products and their own launches. But I haven't seen anything else come from it, and I haven't heard anything else either. But I was excited to hear about Germany. And like I said earlier, I'm kind of surprised that we don't have anything in Japan, seeing how frequently we launch for them. And that had been one of the talking points that Sir Peter Beck always brings up, is that, lots of countries step up and ask for launch pads, but without sovereign payloads, he really didn't see much value in it. But Japan seems to have a lot of them.
And I guess I was going to ask, they were basically asked, like, why did you make Ghost? And they said, because the customer told us to. Is that Department of War, or who is that customer? I missed that.
Well, for this first contract, it's Space Force, Department of War. So
is it like space? Like, is it basically Space Force that told them to do this, or like who are they alluding to there?
The U.S. government somewhere. Do you want to know what branch it was specifically?
I mean, if we could figure that out, yeah.
I think it's under the Air Force, and then it goes into Space Force. But
okay.
I mean, that whole contract,
and now it's under the testing. They have the portfolio executive now, or portfolio acquisition executives. So this is now under one of the testing groups. There's the one for like missile warning and tracking. There's the one that whatever SDA is turned into, like the AMTI one, and then there's ground infrastructure stuff too. But like this is one of those portfolio executive things decisions.
Yeah. Cool.
I think on back to the Japan discussion, that I think New Zealand spaceport is fairly close to Japan, and I think that Europe has like more of an opportunity, because Japan doesn't seem to have a problem just launching from Mahia, whereas in Europe it seems to be that the regulators are very boneheaded, and they want to have like sovereign manufacturing, sovereign launch, and they're not okay with like Europe is like, we'd rather not launch and get way behind than launch from somewhere else. And then I think that's the opportunity that why they're focusing on Europe so much.
So do you think that means that they would be more how do I ask this? Like, how particular are they in regards to like it launching from European soil versus like it being built on European soil? So to ask this another way, like, are they more concerned that the satellites are built in Europe or that they're launched out of Europe?
I think higher concern is that it's built in Europe. And then I think that the launch from Europe is also a concern. And I think it has to do a lot with the war in Ukraine and the NATO relationships and, you know, Trump like pulling away from Europe. And then Europe is like, okay, if there's a future war, what if Trump says like, you know, executive order, ban Europe from using Starlink, you know? And then the only way to not be exposed to this is you have to have your own manufacturing and you have to have your own launch from your own soil, you know? And Europe is such a big, like, they don't really have an excuse, you know? It's not like I don't know, like a small country, like
not like a New Zealand that shouldn't have their own launch.
I was going to say New Zealand, but I'm like, yeah, they have their own, but Europe doesn't really have an excuse not to be able to have their own launch.
I was just going to bring up that we have launched an ESA payload, right? Is it just one that we had, or did we have two? I think the payload one launch.
I think we did two. One of them was Celeste, and I thought it was two.
That was the Open Cosmos. Yeah. So that was right. It was Celeste. So there's that. I mean, so it's not like they're unwilling completely to like use other launchers. I mean, at some point they're gonna have to, especially the commercial side of stuff. I mean, I don't know. That stuff all gives me hope that it's like if we set up Ghost over there to start with, the small launch, that you know, once we get our stuff on the ground there and get launches. But
I think that there's a lot of new money in Europe going into, you know, like how in the US that the defense budget is going from 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion. I think Europe has its own equivalent, that like the space budget is going from like close to zero to like very meaningful amounts of billions. It's just not in the news as much, I think. But when I read the newspapers and talk to people, and I actually had a customer that I was giving an estimate for remodeling his house, and he told me he works in the European Space Agency, and he said that there's a lot of new money and a lot of attention from Europe on having its own space capabilities. I mean, look at what happened to Russia. Like, they were using Starlink to assemble on the drones to attack Ukraine, and then from one day to the next, like Elon Musk was just like, okay, Russian IP address is cut from Starlink, and then the army died for like until they found a solution. Like, it was really bad for them. And I think for national security, like you have to have your own constellation. And
or even before when he cut Russia off them, but even earlier in the conflict, he cut off Starlink without anybody else's like it wasn't like a general told him, for the U.S. general. It's like, no, I'm the CEO of the company, and say you can't use my stuff to fight in a war against. That was like huge red flags for anybody that was thinking of relying on Starlink. It's like, you individually decided you could do this. I don't know. That would freak me out if I was a country thinking somebody else controlled your communications.
What happened? It was that he was allowing it in Ukraine, but then Ukraine like asked that they wanted to attack Russia, and then
no, it was Crimea, which is Ukraine.
Exactly, which is Russia, right?
No, Crimea is Ukraine. I mean,
it was. Yeah, okay.
I'm saying Russia's occupied it since 2014, but by international, the UN and the borders, Ukraine's part of that, or Crimea is part of Ukraine.
Yeah. But in any case, yes, it's I don't see how you can, like, Europe is like 400 million people. Russia, I think, is like 3. No,
Russia's only like 120, 100 million, 8 million. No, it's not that. It's not.
The point is, like, a group of 400 million people like can't can't not have their own constellations and expect to have national security.
All right.
So
You're familiar with this Kepler company?
Yeah, that's out of Toronto. That's the one. I mean, that was also cool because PS or whatever, one of our subsidiaries up there too. But they're based out of Toronto. They're doing they're building basically the equivalent of a commercial version of the SDA transport layer. They're doing that like with the laser links and stuff. But I don't think they're using Mynaric for Kepler. I don't remember. But yeah, but they're supposed to be SDA compliant, I think too. I think they even got I think they even got one of the contracts for it because don't quote me on that, but I think they have some contract already too as well because they're helping to provide that backbone. Similar to what the SDN layers do, Space Data Network.
Did you guys catch that they said that it was their first non-ride share like rocket that they booked? I thought that was like many more to come.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get that impression too. That's what I was asking. I'm on their website and they have like the Rocket Lab Neutron mock-up on their splash page.
Oh yeah, they posted it, or Rocket Lab reposted their tweet today for them too. Oh, that's cute. Sorry, Madison posted. The only screen time allowed in this house is this Rocket Lab earnings call, and it's her baby. They get in front of it. Sorry, that's cute. I just like he posted.
My daughter asked today if she can be on this call. Like she's 12 and has Rocket Lab shares, and I'm like, I don't think you would be you would enjoy being on this call, but yeah. Cool guys.
She's gonna be watch another year or two now. She's gonna be like on the weeklies correcting you. You're like, no, Dad, you don't have that right.
Yeah, it's funny because she's like super good with money, like insanely good with money, like for being a 12-year. Like she saves everything that she has, and like I think she invests 90% of it. And anytime she wants, like, gets an idea to buy something, like she has, because she's been saving for so long. Like it's still kids' money, like it's not adult money, but for a kid, it's like, I mean. She has a portfolio of $5,000 that is from her own creation. Like, yeah,
nice.
And that's like crazy for a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like if she wants to buy something that is like $100, she has a lot of money, but she's like, okay, I'm gonna work extra. So she's very good with money. So I was actually thinking about it that in like. I told her that if she is 18 and wants to live at home, as long as she can show me that the rent she would pay us, she's investing, like she can stay here. If she cannot show that she's investing the rent, then she has to move out and, like live and I was like, wow, like by the time she's like 22, 23, she will be, very, very ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good mindset.
Yeah.
I was just going to bring up that in that Kepler side, their announcement, they're talking about they're working with European programs too, and they're in the Hydron initiative, which is another thing for expanding hosted payloads. It's the same thing that Mynaric was in for the quantum key distribution. What's one of those sets of programs? I was just bring up the connection that Kepler's doing stuff for Europe, and we're launching Kepler's satellites. So there's it's not too many degrees of separation before we're already doing European launch. So. That's another. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'd make. Something there.
I think there's a lot of future catalysts coming from Europe. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. We're just going to be getting like 300 million from here, 500 million from here, and we will be like, what the heck are these European contracts? But yeah.
I would love to see bigger contracts like that.
Mm-hmm. Jacob, I have a quick question for you because I'm looking at actually I think you posted this. It's from you. So in that I'll call it a request for work. I don't remember the name of the official document, but it's the one that was like, hey, this is what Kodiak's going to look like. Apply. Were there two pads kind of inferred there, or did it just look like one?
No, all the work actually called out was pad. It was the one on the very end of the road, so I had no idea there was anything for a second pad. Because it was pad. Actually, all the work on it. I need to go back and look again.
Because it looked like there was one just off to the side, but I thought, like, I just seeing it, I was like, oh, that must be part of ABL's, and I'm not sure if I'm if I just misinterpreted that, but like the more that I'm sitting here looking at this picture, I'm like, given the whole like Ghost platform, it seems kind of like odd to a degree that we're building 2 pads, I assume within the same-ish time frame for only 6 launches. Like that's they must be expecting a whole lot more than just 6.
You mean, oh, it's 6 each you're talking about, like 6 launches per pad? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna assume it was 9, but no, I mean, I would assume that it's got to be for more up there if they're gonna have 2 at once, or maybe they need 2 specifically for something to do with this testing, because hypersonic testing, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe they need 2 pads to be creating some sort of like, here's the target, here's the chase, right?
Yep.
Fair.
They might need 2 at once, or within quick succession, or something like that. I'm not sure, but it seems, I would make sense, right? I would make way more sense than like 18 is not enough hardly for 1 pad, let alone 2.
Mm-hmm.
So
just kind of think, yeah, cool.
I was also wondering what role they were going to play, because the contract was specific for like missile defense, or I thought I saw the word target in there somewhere. So I was like, so what part are you playing? Are you the target, or are you the launcher for the hypersonic vehicle? But I guess with 2, you can kind of do both.
Yeah. And then we're launching the vehicle, I think, with the SBI thing that we're doing with I don't know. Maybe we have something to do with the payload there too. But there's like they talk about having like the common uniform for the mock TB 1.0 program, where they had that common glide body that they were using, and it seemed like they were using that common thing and then switching out different payloads on that. So I don't know. I'm not sure if this stuff is. I don't know. There's no evidence saying that we've created the payloads for any of these, other than there was one time they mentioned that we helped with one of them. So I'm not sure. Sorry, I didn't give you enough answers. I'm looking for that pad layout thing. So the pad that they have in the show that they showed in there, I mean, it looks like it too. Like the line, how it's laid out looks very similar to the Ghost, but that was only ever talking about on that road, or whatever how they named it there, but it was the one that was closest in the foreground of the video.
So
I have a map now that if you guys want to see it.
I'm looking at the mock-up, right? And there definitely looks like there's some infrastructure there. So do you guys have any idea or any thoughts how they're going to use Ghosts then? Because if you have infrastructure for launch pads, that's not really Ghost, right?
But like, I can't remember who actually wrote it. But somebody like they called it ahead of time. They're like, this is going to be like a containerized launch site, like just based on what I shared a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I kind of was just like, nah, I don't think they're doing the Astra thing, but yeah, sure enough, they're doing a victory lap today. So like this is going to be Ghost-ish, I guess. But that's why I'm so like, why 2 pads? If you can just set up the second pad anywhere else in the world, I don't know.
So is the containerized part just the transportation aspect of it, or does the container contain all the launch, structures that are needed to?
I think the latter. It sounded like the latter, where it's like it's not necessarily all coming on like the same size of containers, but like the actual infrastructure is very like copy paste kind of an idea. So it didn't sound like it's like LC3 where it's like, if you want to get anything out of there, good luck. I mean, I guess that's not the best, like more like LC2, I guess. It's a better way to put that. Oh, I'm seeing this captain. Yeah. Yeah. Captain was saying it was mobile. So well played, well called.
All right, guys. I think this is a good point to end the call. Thank you so much for being here, for all of you.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. So may your sky stays blue and your stock stays green, and see you guys on Rocket Lab Weekly, I guess.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See you.
All right. Ciao, ciao.